The chassis sits low and no one crawls out from under it, so I haul him a good 10 meters before I stop. I open the door, step out with the Desert Eagle, and walk to the front. Bong is out cold, blood all down his legs and backside. I put a round in him without ceremony, and a yellow orb of light floats up, which I kick, and the water affinity entry is mine. A rush of air behind me, and without a thought, I vanish. Earth escape. The car detonates into a ball of fire. I surface more than 10 meters off, grim, staring at the wreck. Then gunfire and a scream sound from where Jang Seo lies. I turn my head to 3 mechanical beasts that have appeared at Huang Gang's spot, and Huang Gang is already down in a spreading pool of blood. The beasts have full metal skeletons and a wolf's build, twin machine gun muzzles on each shoulder, and most of all, a dark hollow tube on their backs like a rocket launcher. The shape is familiar. The corner of my mouth twitches. These things look exactly like some cartoon metal wolf, one of those toy war beasts off a kid's show. And here they are in the flesh. A crossover, apparently. Still, I cast insight on the trio. Mechanical Warwolf, 1-star early stage, lootable entries machine thinking in yellow, and mechanical heart in yellow. Having finished Huang Gang, the 3 lock onto me and all go berserk at once. Bullets and shells raining down, interlaced into a dense metal net that seals my front, back, sides, and overhead. A run of explosions, dust choking the air, the ground shuddering. When the smoke thins, there is a pit where I stood, data streaming across their red eyes, and a target death verdict resolves, so the 3 stow their weapons. Then from behind them I tell them it is my turn. A red saber light rips through all 3 bodies, and they seize up, arcs of current spitting off them as they split in 2, and slide to the ground. Eyes dark. So poor. Not a single card between them. I lost a whole car and walked away with nothing. A flat loss. Han Yu took 2 cards off 2 kills, and here I am with luck this rotten. I glance at my hand on reflex. Maybe it is because I forgot to wash up earlier. Shaking my head, I walk to Jang Seol and absorb her charm. I have no woman to charm, but more abilities beats fewer. Huang Gang I did not kill, so no entry drops off him. Then the space chimes. My entries have reached 20, and the entry recycling function unlocks. Excess entries can be broken down into entry points. A white worth 1, a yellow worth 2, a blue worth 3, a purple worth 4, and up the scale. I am overjoyed. I was fretting about never having enough entry points, and here is the answer. As I digest the details, one greedy thought jumps up on its own. Loot, recycle. Loot, recycle. In an endless river of entry points. Before, identical entries could not be absorbed twice, but now I can absorb and recycle in the same breath. An infinite well. Then the fine print kills it. Each type of entry may be recycled only once. So much for the free lunch. There is never a real exploit in this system. Even so, once is still plenty of room to work, because this run's mechanical heart and machine thinking can be recycled, and then plundered fresh again. I sort through my stock and recycle 4. Bloodthirsty recovery in blue, since with super recovery it is dead weight. A Taoist prodigy entry in white, useless to a man who does not cultivate the Tao. A feng shui entry in blue that only reads the lowest grade of feng shui, no help to anyone. And charm in blue, because what woman would I ever need to sweet talk? Women only slow down my looting. That comes to 3 blues and 1 white, 10 entry points, and with the 2 I had left over plus the 1 that refreshed at dawn. I sit at 13. I have never held so many. I cannot wait a second to spend them. I fuse. My old ice manipulation in purple folds, together with water affinity in yellow, into a new purple entry, extreme cold control, granting a heavy affinity for water and ice, lower cost on every water and ice skill, and faster recovery. Then a bigger stack, transcendent body and energy resistance and all poisons immune and super recovery. All blue, with super hearing in yellow and olfactory perception in blue, all collapsing into 1 blue entry, divine body. It carries super speed, strength, defense, recovery, and heightened senses, immunity to toxins and to conventional weapons, and a 50% cut to energy damage. 12 entry points spent, and my entry bar shrinks down clean and tidy. The real surprise is Divine Body, which slaps 10 points of physique onto me and lifts it from 118 straight to 128, a gift I did not see coming. I check the board. Strength 114, physique 128, speed 123, spirit 100. My talents read Eye of Insight in gold, Zombie Aura in purple, Dimensional Space in purple, Blood Tracking in yellow, Divine Body in blue, Extreme Cold Control in purple, Earth Affinity in purple, Mind Edict in blue, Mechanical Heart in purple, and Machine Thinking in blue. 1 entry point in the bank, 1 more every day. Killing value at 152, 10 free attributes, waiting. Combat rating, 4-star early stage. The new body I cannot really test out here, but the ice I can. A few minutes later, I am wearing a satisfied smile. 1 and 1 really is stronger than 2. The cost of my ice has dropped roughly 3-fold. The temperature runs colder, all the way down to -200, and the recovery has doubled. Everything moving the right direction. Then I hit the road. Without a car, I fall back on the amphibious motorcycle, sunglasses on, swagger up, and ride out for half an hour. I run into a mob of robots along the way and wipe them out. 3 more cards dropping, but that is not the prize. The prize is my entry points climbing from 1 to 8, because I recycled Mechanical Heart in purple and Machine Thinking in blue, then plundered both again off a fresh T800, netting 7 points on the round trip. Exploiting the loophole really is the best. 8 entry points buys me 2 blue entries up to purple, or 1 purple all the way to red. I think on it and land on Dimensional Space, since extreme cold control is plenty for now. Dimensional Space was the foundation I survived on in my last life, and I have a soft spot for it. Back when points were scarce, I could only feed the loud, urgent upgrades, but now I have a second faucet, and since I am flush, I will spoil my favorite. A modest little goal then. Push Dimensional Space to gold. Dimensional Space climbs from purple to red at the cost of all 8 points, leaving me at 0. Now it holds 40 cubic meters of independent space, opens entrances and exits anywhere within 10 meters, stores living things for 10 minutes, and, new this tier, lets me step inside and stay 10 minutes myself. The storage window did not change, but that last line is everything, because before I could only push others in and watch through my mind, and now I can go in. With a thought I blink out, not by Earth escape but into my own dimensional space, and land inside a silver-white void, looking around like a tourist. I have peered in with my mind every day for ages, and this is the first time I have actually seen it. A rotating ring forms at my thought, a window onto the world outside that I can slide around within 10 meters, even down through the ground, and when I reach a hand through, I feel the scorch of the sun outside. I am delighted. This is nothing less than the legendary long-range fist from the old martial arts tales, the strike that reaches a target 100 steps off. I will have to bank some strength for it later. Punch a man's head in from a distance, and he never even learns who hit him. A perfect skill for ambush and cheap shots. Excellent. I leave the space, spot the city ruins ahead, and close in fast, rolling straight through the gates. First thing in, a mechanical dog. As it pounces, my right hand jabs at empty air, my fist sinking into the void, and it reappears at the dog's flank to slam its neck. The neck snaps with a dry crack, sparks jump, and it drops with its eyes going dark. But I am not satisfied. I was aiming for the head and somehow caught the neck. My accuracy is off. More practice. I stow the motorcycle and stroll the city like a man out for a walk, handling every mechanical monster through the dimensional space, drilling the move I have decided to call the 10-step Divine Fist. Turning a corner, my feet stop. Ahead the robots are packed dense, T-800s, and mechanical dogs and mechanical werewolves, and a spread of other models, though their entries are all the same and differ only in grade, presumably because they are man-made. The instant they see me, they all lock on, and gunfire and cannon fire erupt, a storm of rounds and shells crossing the street to reach me in a blink, and then the air twists and they are gone. The barrage pours for a full 3 minutes before it dies. The robots stare at me, unharmed, their processors half frozen, because nothing in their programming allows a man to weather that and stand there without a scratch. Unscientific. Surprised, I ask them with a grin, delighted, and tell them not to rush, because the real surprise is still coming. The air twists again, and a flood of projectiles appears out of nowhere and hammers the machine army. The blasts and fire swallow them whole. One T-800 rides the explosion out and leaps clear. Then a second, then a third, and before long most of the T-800s have escaped. Only a few unlucky ones with their data cables cut through by the shells. Their combat logic tells them bullets cannot hurt this target, so they switch to close combat and stride at me. I grin. Close combat suits me fine. I raise a foot and walk into them at a stroll. Not many T-800s died, but every mechanical dog and werewolf is finished, and I see a spread of cards I cannot let go to waste. The fastest T-800 reaches me first, and I throw a punch, the fist vanishing and surfacing at the side of its head to knock it flying. That is only the start. As a wall of them piles into close range, I finally show what I have become. One punched into the air, another kicked after it, and every flying robot turning into an ice sculpture. These are T-800s, each one far past an ordinary man in strength and speed, and against me it is a child walking into an adult. Easy. It calls to mind an old kung fu comedy where the hero wades untouched through a whole mob. Only here the mob is machines. Even the stray blows that land on me do nothing, cannot even slow me a step, and I keep drifting forward and pocketing cards, a picture perfectly at odds with the frenzy of the T-800s around me. Right as I am enjoying the harvest, every T-800 stops at once, out of character. Their abdominal cavities split open, and each draws out a black rectangular block crawling with faint arcs in green light, then hurls it at me. I catch the sight in a breath and my pupils shrink. Nuclear energy cells. You machines fight dirty. Without thinking, I open a dimensional space entrance and swallow the incoming cells. Because these are ultimate weapons, each blast on par with a small nuke. Once they are all stored, I let a breath out. If those had struck the ground. 2 black objects roll up to my feet from behind me. Nuclear energy cells. The hair on my neck rises. How are there some behind me too? Cursing under my breath, I take a step, my figure twists, and I am gone. 2 blinding white suns bloom where I stood, brighter than the sun overhead. 2 small mushroom clouds so close together that their force merges into one massive column. Everything the shockwave touches, streets and houses alike, is leveled as if worn away, and a sandstorm surges out of the city core into the desert. The glare takes a full minute to die, and the dust hangs on countless black flakes drifting across the sky like goose down. Radioactive fallout, the kind that ruins a body's immune system on contact. When the dust settles, the field is bared, no streets left, only a vast crater. Minutes later, I step out of thin air and take it in, a wave of aftershock washing over me. Good thing I ducked into the dimensional space in time, because anything with that much punch would have put anyone else on their knees. The fallout in the air I do not worry about, since at worst I press a foot to the earth and heal it all off. Then my heart pinches. Every last card of mine just went up with the city. I stomp the ground, earth escape, and vanish. Elsewhere, the chat channel detonates over the mushroom cloud. An avalanche of messages. Someone crows that a survivor dropped a small nuke and wiped a swarm of robots for a fortune. And someone else insists nothing could ever force a T-800 to self-detonate. One man begs for rescue from robots trying to turn him into a cyborg. Another jokes that he would happily be remade into a T-1000 so he could shapeshift into anyone he liked. And the whole thread derails past any hope of straightening it out. I catch the message about the modification and knit my brow, because the man is not lying. The space mark can vanish, and once it does, a person can never leave the space again. There are only 2 ways for the mark to go, changing faction into a monster, or death. And the robots modify humans, a fact I had all but forgotten. Not everyone is worth remaking, since the machines screen for the strong, which is to say only evolvers are worth the trouble. I passed right over this piece of intelligence before. If that is the case, could I flip their whole plan against them? It has been nearly 10 minutes since the blast without a single robot in sight, and maybe they are drawing up new tactics, but scouring the streets for them is too slow regardless. What if I let one catch me and haul me off to a modification factory? There would be no shortage of robots there. The longer I chew on it, the better it tastes. Next step, find a robot and try. I ride the streets honking now and then to draw a machine's attention, and 10 minutes on I finally meet a T-800. For a second it feels like running into family. Getting noticed around here is harder than it has any right to be. A minute later I decisively pass out, and the T-800 takes me exactly as I wanted. To its program, the capture went a touch too smooth, but a machine only registers complete or not complete, with no room for doubt. It sets me on its motorcycle, mounts up, and drives, and after half an hour I am delivered to an industrial park. Teams of robots patrolling on a cycle, 8 guards at the gate alone. It thrills me, watching it all in secret. Big fish. Definitely big fish. The T-800 carries me through unchallenged, straps me to an operating table, and turns and leaves. And the moment the door shuts, pipes rise from the wall and hiss out white smoke. I open my eyes and stand. Destination reached. No reason to keep playing dead, and I am no masochist who needs a robot to work him over first. I scan the room. 3 metal walls and 1 huge glass panel. One way by the look of it, nothing else of note. As the mist spreads, I lift a foot, vanish, and reappear outside the glass. This upgraded dimensional space is a divine escape tool. Outside is a metal corridor, and turning back I can indeed see into the room through the glass. Rooms line both sides all the way to the end. I flash to the one next door and look in. There is a surgical bed with a dismembered person on it, mechanical arms swapping metal parts into the body, and a line of text in the top corner reading heartbeat normal, blood pressure normal, brain activity normal, modification 40% complete. Then blood erupts from the body and paints the glass. The arms freeze and red text replaces the line. Modification 42%. Experiment failed. Cause rejection. Target deceased. Destroy at once. The words flicker and fade. The arms retract and flame roars up from the bed. The body alight in an instant. The fire dances in my eyes, and something in me aches, because those were precious glittering entries gone in the few seconds I watched. The person was cut apart but not yet dead, and I had been getting ready to read their entries when they died on me. My eyes flicker as a method takes shape. Rather than let them suffer through modification and die at the end anyway, better that I end them myself and inherit their entries, and let them keep shining on my behalf. So I stop hunting monsters and stride to the next room. Empty. The one after is not. Inside sits a black-haired woman on the bed, half metal and half flesh, sheets of skin tissue being laid over a bare skeleton, and it is deeply unnerving to watch. The window reads modification 90%, rejection within norms, currently implanting epidermal tissue. This far along she is practically on the machine's side, and I wonder whether her entries look any different. I cast Insight, a TH model cyborg named Juki, 1-star late stage, plunderable entries none. As I figured, when the modification runs nearly to the end, everything but the core organs is swapped out, and the original talents go with the flesh. So I need the ones only partway done. Criteria set, I sweep the rooms quickly and come away with only 3 entries. The rest either too far gone or already past the halfway mark, because once modification clears 50%, the original entries are wiped. These machines work too fast. 3 is still a decent haul. Mechanical Master in blue, a matchless gift for machinery that lets me grasp any mechanical thing I hold in seconds. Metallization in blue, turning my whole body to metal for heavy defense. And super mimicry in yellow, letting me copy anyone's voice. I absorb all 3 and leave the modification wing. A short walk on, I stop in a corridor and turn to the side glass, my eyes going wide, a light kindling in them, the light of a man about to strike it rich. Behind the glass is an arsenal, T-800s, coming off an assembly line in endless number and lining up in neat phalanxes below. Everything tidy and precise. Then I catch the flaw. Their electronic eyes are all black and the nuclear battery slots in their chests are empty, unactivated. I have nothing to say. Got myself all worked up for a warehouse of scrap. What is the difference between a dead T-800 and a heap of junk metal? And with this many, there is no way I let them go to waste. Rounding a corner, I walk straight into a patrol. The lead robot's eye contracts, and it snaps its weapon up at me, declaring an intruder detected. Alarm engaged. Capture the intruder. Red light floods the corridor and the siren begins to wail. A shot cracks off, a bullet flying from my thigh, and I keep walking at an even pace as the round dissolves the moment it enters my space. A single corridor means I only have to guard the front, which makes the dimensional space exactly right for the job. 3 thumb-thick blue beams shoot from my hands. Freezing ray. Where the blue passes, the air seems to set solid and frost crawls across the walls. And in a breath, the light sweeps over the patrol. Their movements drag, their skeletons whiten, and they finish as ice sculptures. A laser blade comes to my hand. A few flickers of motion put me among them, and the slaughter is as easy as chopping vegetables. 1 stroke, 1 kill. Every head dropping. A white card falls. Electromagnetic pulse gun. 100 pulse rounds. Brutal interference and lethality against machines. A divine weapon for robots. I do not need it though, so it is better exchanged. And I stow it. I pick up one of the severed heads, fiddle with it, and a projection blooms in the air. A huge map. The topography of the area I am standing in. I grin. This mechanical master entry is genuinely good. A large red dot marks my exact position, and a few seconds later dense clusters of small red dots bloom and race inward toward mine. The base's patrols converging. I ignore them and run my eyes across the map for the one place I want. The main control room. Find that, and I can have as many of these robots as I please. My gaze locks onto the marked area. I memorize the route, kick the head aside, and melt back into the corridor. Over the next 10 minutes, I meet a few more waves and have no time to spend on them, so I clear them and press on toward the main control room. At the corridor that leads to it, I stop. A metal passage 100 meters long with a control room at the far end, and strangely, no robots at all. It makes no sense. The most critical room in the base cannot be without security, unless the corridor itself is the trap. After a moment, I lift a stone pedestal out of my dimensional space and hurl it in. It sails through untouched, no ambush at all, and I pause, thrown, wondering if I overthought it. Then, right at the halfway point, glass doors slam shut at both ends. Beams of white light ignite along the corridor and rake across the pedestal, and in an instant it is sliced into dozens of pieces on the floor. The doors reopen as if nothing happened, as if to say the door is always open. A cold smile crosses my face. No wonder there were no guards. This is what they leaned on. Every science fiction base has its laser corridor, cliché and undeniably effective, and an ordinary man truly could not cross it. Unfortunately, I am no ordinary man. I take a step and reappear, 10 meters on, then another step and another 10. One plain use of the dimensional space serving as a blink. Halfway through, the laser corridor lights on cue, but before the beams reach me, I am already 10 meters ahead, and this near teleport carries me clean through the 100-meter kill zone at a leisurely stroll. Facing the sealed door, I take one more step and enter. What waits is a vast open space with a great ring of glass around the center and the control console within. Footsteps sound, and 4 people walk out from the 4 corners. 2 men and 2 women. Gold light stirs in my eyes. T-1000 liquid metal combat robot 2-star late stage. Lootable entries mechanical heart in purple and machine thinking in blue. All 4 are liquid metal. Why did I never hear of T-1000s in my last life? The answer arrives on the heels of the question. In my last life, no one ever infiltrated a main control room without being caught, so these four are almost certainly the last line of defense here. While I am thinking it through, the four T-1000s break into a run at me, their arms writhing and reshaping into weapons, a pair of dual blades, a pair of dual spikes, a pair of scythes, and a pair of dual axes. I flick my hand and send out 4 streams of frost entanglement, and 4 ice sculptures stand where they were. I have no clean way to kill a T-1000 yet, but freezing one is as simple as eating a meal. Once they are frozen, I fold them into my dimensional space, because robots have no life signs and are not living creatures, so the space stores them for good. The same is true of the T-800s, though there it is pointless, since it is easier to kill them and loot the cards. The T-1000s I cannot kill for now, so I will settle it when I find a high-temperature furnace. I reach the central console without obstruction, the glass in my way solved with a single step. As I enter, the control center projects a 3-dimensional T-800 and speaks in a run of mechanical tones, reporting identity scan in progress. No identity information found. Requesting verification. A palm reader surfaces on the console. Looking at the buttonless surface, I go quiet. This is not at all what I pictured. I imagined arriving, working a few controls, seizing the whole base and marching an endless line of T-800s off to die for me. Instead, there are no buttons, only identity verification, and even if I dragged in some random robot to identify, an ordinary unit would never hold the authority to command the base, so I would still control nothing. After a moment, I take out a T-800 head, work at it, and raise another projection, because I need the location of the base's host computer. There is only one road to control now, resetting the host system, since like any computer, a clean reinstall solves 99% of problems, and a fresh system is a blank page with no password at all. The base's system cannot be rewritten, but a reset should hold. The projection flickers and settles on an area, and I raise a brow because the host sits directly beneath the control room, in a vast sealed void with no entrance whatsoever. That stumps me not at all. Everything is simple from here. I trigger the dimensional space and step straight into the host chamber. 3 minutes later, the base's power circuit cuts out, every engineering robot going still as though the whole place crashed, and a minute after that everything returns as if nothing occurred. Only I, looking at the reset console, grin. There is no more identity verification, which means anyone who could sneak in from here on can command the base, though sneaking in is hardly easy, since the laser corridors, the control room door, and this layer of glass would turn away 99% of intruders. The system confirms the binding is complete and names me the sole authority controller of the base. That is the first order I give after the reset. I drag over a stool, sit, and hand down the second command with satisfaction, telling it to brief me on the base. It obeys, reporting that this is Factory Number 6, a new facility that folds research, production, modification, capture, and detention into one, covering 100,000 square meters and holding manufacturing rooms, assembly rooms, solid waste treatment, maintenance bays, and more. I ask whether beyond Factory Number 6 there are 7 others, and it answers that there are 8 more, 9 machine factories in all, spread across the Qian district, the He district, the Zheng district, the Gyeong district, and on. I frown, since it is a shade off from what I knew, but no matter. I ask how many T-800s Factory Number 6 holds, and it tells me 10,000 are activated, 8,000 of them out on capture and extermination, and 2,000 guarding the base, with 100,000 more sitting unactivated, 100,000 asleep, and I ask why they are not all switched on. It answers that nuclear battery output is the bottleneck, capping activation at 3,000 a day. I frown deeper. 3,000 a day is far too few. I ask how much the daily activation would climb if we dropped the nuclear batteries for inferior power. Secondary ordinary hydrogen batteries would raise it to 5,000 a day, it says, at the cost of an 80-year lifespan and unstable traits prone to combustion. Ordinary high-energy batteries would reach 10,000 a day, but the lifespan drops to 10 years. Temporary energy batteries would hit 50,000 a day, with the lifespan crashing to a single year. I am pleased. Temporary energy lasting a year is nothing to a robot, but for me it is more than enough. I put a few more questions to the base system until I understand the whole operation, and only then do I begin handing down orders. Recall every T-800 out in the field for maintenance and upgrades as needed. Set every robot produced to obey me without condition. Activate the T-800s at full capacity on temporary energy. And at the same time, produce nuclear batteries at full capacity and collect them because I have a use for them. My string of sabotage has a knock-on effect I never planned for. Every robot within reach of base number 6 breaks off whatever it is doing and races home at once, which means every survivor those machines were hunting suddenly finds himself alone in the wasteland with no idea why. The public channel detonates behind it. It is an avalanche of survivors swearing that a T-800 gave up mid-chase and simply walked off. One man was about to be executed the second his executioner turned and left. and another claims he watched dozens of the things sprint past without so much as glancing his way. A few unlucky souls still being run down insist the rest are lying. Someone begs for water. Someone hawks a bottle of mineral water for a single card, and the whole feed dissolves into noise. I glance at it once and stop caring. Over the next half day, the survivors around base number 6 make a stranger discovery. The robots are gone. Not one mechanical dog left behind. Not a single unit anywhere. All of them vanished clean. The survivors are baffled but glad of it, and they scatter to tear through the ruins for supplies and water. The two things that rule an ordinary person's whole existence out here. I am the exception, the one man who never has to think about food or drink, and that lets me spend the quiet on something better. I am changing the plan. I came in meaning to grind, and now I mean to build an army. Teaming up with people never works, but teaming up with robots is another matter entirely. Because once the program is written, they will not betray me, and even if some glitch made them try, I would turn the whole lot to scrap in a breath. Everyone else can only field a machine army inside the space, but I am not everyone else. I have a dimensional space, and now I have a factory that mass produces soldiers, so the only question is how many I can carry out with me. An army riding along in my pocket, waiting to be poured out whenever I please. From here on, I do not have to do every filthy job myself. These robots earn me no cards and no killing value when they kill, true, but as cannon fodder, as scouts, as searchers and eyes on the ground, they are worth their weight. There is strength in numbers, and I intend to have the numbers. While I am at it, I have the base start researching and modifying new units, because they are mine now and I want them better than stock. For the design, I simply copy what I remember of the TX. The TX has an inner metal skeleton wrapped in an outer liquid metal shell, so it can change its shape at will. It comes with a full weapon system to fix the standard model's one real flaw, and on top of that, it can seize control of other machines. A perfect killing machine. For the weapons, I hand the base the electronic pulse gun card and order it dismantled, studied, mounted on the TX, and rewired to run off nuclear power, so that as long as the battery holds, the pulse gun never runs dry. One card spent to spare myself thousands of killing value on armament is a bargain I will take every time. A pity there is no time to develop laser weapons, which would want 3 more months I do not have, so I let that dream go without a second look. The 3 T-1000s I captured go back to the factory to be melted down, because there is not enough raw liquid metal to build the TX otherwise. I think it through and settle on melting 3 and keeping 1 in reserve. The T-1000 is strong, but its weaknesses are glaring, no range to speak of, in a locked-up helpless state after every wound until the liquid metal knits itself back together. So 1 is plenty, and the rest are more useful as feedstock for several more TXs. The survivor I keep, I order to reshape itself into a kitten, and then I make the mistake of petting it once. After that, I cannot stop. For the TX research parameters, I lay down 3 rules and no more. First, it obeys me. Second, the base form is female. Third, it carries reserved laser weapon slots across the whole body and a pair of nuclear battery mounts. Appearance I leave open, since the thing can wear any face it likes. The base accepts the order and gives me a build countdown of roughly 2 days. 2 days to my first TX. The 3 T-1000s I sent to the furnace hand me a small surprise on the way out. They drop 3 lottery cards, which means the space filed all 4 of them as boss class kills. And now that windfall is mine. I hold myself back from feeding the last T-1000 and after them, and open the 3 mystery cards instead. 1 particle shock cannon, 1 T-800 combat robot, and 10 pounds of super meteorite, alien fragments the panel calls heavy in defense and self-repairing, wrapped in a magnetic field that shrugs off any magnetic attack. The particle shock cannon I throw straight to the base to dismantle and mount, so every TX will carry 2 heavy weapons, enough for anything ordinary. The T-800 I toss to the base too, since I hardly need 1 more. The meteorite I think on for a moment, then hand over as well, to be worked into the TX endoskeleton, so that under the liquid metal skin the inner frame is tougher, mends itself, and laughs off electromagnetic interference. Fewer flaws all around, and it is all mine anyway, so stronger is simply better. The build work pauses long enough for me to see the first batch of T-800s running on temporary energy. I flick on the eye of insight and smile, because the cheap battery has not touched a thing. Not the rating and not the entries. By the time all of that is arranged, it is already the small hours of the second day, and the space chimes with a new basic mission. Find a shotgun. I sit and stare at it. That is the whole thing. I turn my hand over and a shotgun is already there, and the space cheerfully informs me the second day basic mission is complete. Reward 200 killing value. Not a scrap of satisfaction in it. I love it anyway. Mission done. I turn to stocking up on cards, and the fastest road to that is the trading platform. With a factory behind me, I am never short of things to list, so I dump the plant's weapons straight onto the board. A shotgun with 10 rounds bundles for 1 card, a metal sensor mine for 1 card, a small Gatling with a box of ammunition for 2, an individual missile set for 3. On and on I go until I have posted a full 500 pieces and hit a wall. It is not that I want to stop. The platform caps each person at 500 listings at a time, and anything past that will not post. It is a rule I never once heard of in my last life, either buried on purpose or never triggered, because almost nobody could carry goods into trade the way I do. 500 is enough. It cost me nothing and I never expected any of it back. Once an item is listed, it cannot be pulled, only sold to a buyer or swallowed by the space if it sits, and none of that troubles me. Whatever sells, sells. I am not out of thing. Then I settle into what I can only call grinding while flat on my back. I find the machine disposal pit, a high-temperature furnace, the kind of heat that unmakes a T800 the instant it goes in. So I plant myself beside it with an iced cola and wait for the units to file up, and as each one arrives I give it a lazy kick over the lip. Down it goes. Done. When a card drops, I pull it into my dimensional space with a thought. No standing guard over the loot the way I had to back in the zombie world. There is no better way to farm monsters than this. Meanwhile, the channel is losing its mind over my armory dump. Someone swears a big shot must have robbed a weapons depot, and someone dreams aloud of what he would do with a rack of missiles. Then a sharper voice reasons that this much hardware can only come off a weapons or robot manufacturing line, which turns the whole feed toward one question. Where is the base? The location scramble that follows spills out several at once. A metal city stamped number 3 dozens of kilometers south of the desert oasis, a number 9 beside a great lake, a number 1 near a smoking volcano, a number 6 east of the crater where the mushroom cloud went up. Each report warns off the next fool who thinks he can walk in past the swarm of T-800s. I read all of it and frown. I lean down to the cat in my lap and tell it to connect to the base and push 1,000 T-800s out to patrol and hold everything within 3 kilometers of the city wall. Base number 6 is my private ground now, and I am not letting strangers wander in to make trouble. The cat's eyes flicker with a scroll of data, and it answers that the order is sent. Grinding time is dull, and the 3rd day arrives before I feel it. Find a base. The mission says, get within 100 meters of a robot base before the day ends, and it clears itself the instant it appears. Reward 300 killing value before I have even finished reading the words. I raise a foot and boot another T-800 into the furnace. About this whole lying flat way of life, I have exactly one thing to say. Glorious. Elsewhere, near the volcano at the foot of base number 1, 2 people hung against the inner wall of the crater dozens of meters down, fixing a black object to the rock. Below them rolled red magma, and the rising heat had long since soaked their clothes through and glued the cloth to their skin. Each of them wore a vine of some unknown plant looped around the waist, and the vines climbed all the way up and out over the rim, where a middle-aged man knelt 10 meters back with both palms pressed to the soil at the point they broke ground. Green light poured from his hands. The vines were his, or at least his ability was what forced them to grow so fast and hold so much weight. Nearby, a woman with big waves of hair lay at the crater's edge, peering down into the smoke. The man complained that his end was burning through everything he had, and asked her to hurry them along. She called down into the volcano to ask whether the 2 below were done, and a faint voice floated back that they were finished. To haul them up quick. She narrowed her eyes at that, then turned to the man and told him to hold on a little longer, that it would be ready soon. He cursed and kept feeding energy into the vines, and in that same moment a thread of silver light stirred in her eyes as she watched him, and a dagger rose out of the ground behind his back and hung there in the air without a sound. The man never felt it. He snapped at her for staring, told her to stop wasting time and go check on the pair below, and pushed them because he could not last much longer. She smoothed her tangled hair, laid one finger against her lips, parted them slowly, and murmured for him not to worry, to hold on. It was almost over, and for that breath she was the picture of charm. He swallowed hard and cursed her again for playing seductive at a time like this, and told her to hurry them up. The dagger drove home. It went in through his back at lightning speed and its point pushed out through his chest, running him clean through. He looked down at his own chest in disbelief, then up at her, and got out that she had powers, that she was no newcomer. She smiled and told him she had never once said she was a newcomer. That was only what he had assumed, and that she had walked in the day the space first opened. His body went slack and folded to the ground, his hands slipping off the vines, and the vines withered and snapped in the same instant. 2 thin screams rose out of the crater. Neither of them so much as glanced at the sound. Coughing blood, the man asked who she really was, and why she had done it. She crouched beside him, careless of what the pose exposed, and told him she would introduce herself properly. Her name was Huang Xinren, ranked 2nd in the first space evaluation and 7th in the second. She rummaged through his belongings and drew out something like a remote control, then explained almost kindly that this was the whole point, since one fewer person meant one fewer share of the killing value. She stood, reached toward him, and he floated up off the ground as if by magic and drifted toward the crater's mouth, begging that he did not want to die. 10 seconds later, his body sank into the magma and was gone. Huang Xinran turned to the metal city at the foot of the mountain, her smile stretching wide. Last time she had only managed 7th, she told the empty air, but this time first place was hers. She went down the mountain, hunted around, and found the 3 motorcycles they had ridden in on, climbed aboard one, took out the remote, and pressed its single button. Then she tossed the thing aside, gunned the engine, and rode away from the volcano. A minute later, 2 small mushroom clouds bloomed inside the crater, one after another, and a beam of red light shot into the sky as a fountain of magma blew out of the mountain. When the clouds thinned, it was plain that a great hole had been torn in the crater wall, and the opening pointed straight down at base number 1. Bright magma poured through the gap, drowning every living thing it touched, and within 10 minutes it had reached the foot of the mountain and was spreading fast toward the base. The alarms at base number 1 shrieked, but against a disaster like this, even the T-800s were useless. The magma ran only about 1300 degrees, not hot enough to melt a T-800 outright, and for a short exposure the machines could hold. But the flood was vast and it never stopped rolling, so there was nowhere to run, and in time, not one of them escaped being burned down. Half an hour later, base number 1 vanished beneath the magma, and the disaster took a heavy toll not only on the robots but on every survivor nearby who failed to flee. The channel filled with curses, because no one there was stupid, and the mushroom clouds at the crater told them plainly it was man-made. The word most of them landed on for whoever did it was insane. Huang Xinran stood on a far peak watching the ruin below, smiling, though her eyes were flat and cold in the passing breeze. First place was hers now for certain, she thought. A same-level T-800 paid 4 killing value, but she was only 1 star, so every kill counted as an overlevel strike worth 8, and 1,000 meant 8,000 and 10,000 meant 80,000, and she was about to take off on the strength of it. She checked her total. It had not moved. Her face went slowly dark, her eyes filling with disbelief as she muttered that it was impossible, that there was no change at all. No killing value, none, and demanded of no one why. If I could see her now, I would sneer and call her exactly what she is, an idiot. Did she truly think the space would leave a hole that wide open, that she could grasp the rules so poorly and still cash in? She pressed a detonator which set off a nuclear blast, and if that blast had killed the machines directly, the killing value would indeed be hers. But the explosion only cracked the crater, and it was the magma that flowed out and buried the base, so if anyone gets the credit is the magma, or the volcano itself, never her. Too many links in the chain and she still wanted paying. Go to sleep. Dreams are the only place she gets that number. Just as base number 1 dies, the robot cat at my feet stands up on my lap and tells me something I can hardly believe. Base number 1 has been destroyed. My face changes and I ask it what happened, because a base destroyed should not be possible, and I want to know who did it and why I never heard a whisper of this in my last life. It is not the loss of the base that rattles me. It is that reality has stepped off the track I remember. A butterfly effect, maybe. Or maybe one of the 8 bases I thought I knew was already gone the first time around, and its absence let its whole story slip past me unnoticed. The more I turn it over, the more that fits. The cat tells me someone blew the crater and the eruption swallowed the base, and it throws a projection out of its eyes. A stitched-together clip of the crater bursting, the mountain erupting, the magma gushing, the base going under. With the picture I have the whole story, footage pulled off a satellite, because when one base falls, it flashes the scene to the others, and every base traces the event through the satellites the same instant. I watch it and I have one verdict. Whoever set that bomb is a fool. What did they think they would gain? If they were chasing killing value, they are going to go cry themselves to sleep on a bathroom floor, which is precisely where Huang Xinran is in spirit, wanting to weep herself to death, because she thought she was the first to try the daring thing, and it turned out the daring thing had nothing to do with her at all. I decided it is worth asking. I turn to the cat and ask how far the ruined base number 1 is from here, and it answers 2,000 kilometers. I ask whether base number 6 sits under any natural threat, and it tells me sandstorms and earthquakes, though there has been no storm in a month, and the base was raised to a seismic grade of 11. Good enough. I order another 1,000 T-800s onto the outer patrol and push the ring out to 5 kilometers, and the cat answers that it is done. Then I slide back into grinding, and this time I do not even kick. I have unlocked a purer method. I open a dimensional space mouth between the approaching robots and the lava furnace, so the machines march through my space and drop straight into the fire, which the system still scores as a clean kill. All I do is lie there and watch. Flawless. It is nightfall when the base sends the news I have been waiting on. The first TX is built. I break off the slaughter and head for the isolated research lab, and inside I find a woman standing motionless with her eyes shut, and the sight of her stops me cold. Smooth, light gold hair cut to the neck, a face as fine as a painting, a small nose and cherry red lips, skin like snow, a short red leather one piece hugging every curve, a pair of long, faultless legs. A grown woman's whole presence rolls over me at once. She is, I have to admit, cut exactly to my taste. Then I frown, because the hair and the face nag at me like something I have seen before, and after a beat the name surfaces from the bottom of my mind. Android 18. That is why she looks familiar. The same hair, the same face, swap the clothes, and there she is. Apparently a robot's beauty carries across worlds. Before I can chase the thought, the base speaks up, reporting the TX debugged, every system loaded, and asking whether to activate it. I ask whether the master recognition command went in too, and it confirms all of it is in place. So I tell it to go. Activation runs its course and lands it complete. The TX opens her eyes, and a wave of killing intent comes off them that ruins the whole picture in a heartbeat. She calls me master in a voice with nothing living in it, and I frown and tell her I do not like that look, to change it, and that the voice is too cold and needs to sound human. In the next breath her gaze softens, the killing intent draining out, her eyes turning liquid and tender on me, and she asks whether this is better, in a voice gone warm and coaxing enough to make my cheek twitch. Too abrupt a swing, but it beats the alternative. I tell her to show me what she can do. She recites it plainly. A super alloy endoskeleton, super alloy armor, liquid metal skin, the ability to take any shape, to infiltrate, to copy, to seize any mechanical system, and full immunity to electromagnetic pulse. Her weapons run to an electromagnetic pulse gun, a particle cannon, a flamethrower, and open slots waiting to mount a fourth. By the time she finishes, I know this TX inside and out. The base rebuilt the one I remember, and then improved on it. A perfect killing machine. I ask how many more I can have off a full production run by noon tomorrow. Since I came in at noon, 3 days is the run, I leave before noon. And with only the night and a dozen hours left, I want the count. Materials are sufficient, it tells me after a moment. 3 more before noon. Good. Full production. Then I turn to the TX and tell her that from now on her name is Winter Plum, that she will stay at my side as my secretary, and that she may pull down whatever secretary skills she needs. She agrees, and her clothing shivers and reforms in an instant into a pink business suit. I ask what this is, and she answers that a search turned it up as the attire best suited to a secretary's bearing, and asks whether I dislike it. I like it well enough, and I tell her to drop master and call me boss instead, which she does at once. 4 TXs, I realize, make 4 handmaids, spring orchid, summer bamboo, autumn chrysanthemum, and winter plum, and I will enjoy the treatment of an old world young lord after all. I remember to remind the base that all 4 are to be female and, above everything, not to give them the same face. It confirms the order, and I leave with Winter Plum in tow to get back to grinding. Petting the cat, I set Winter Plum to plug into the base and stock herself. Secretary knowledge above all. I feed her the materials for it, the whole shelf of nonsense from a book on the discipline of a good secretary to one on winning over a boss. I mean to raise her into an all-around aide. What successful man does not have a flawless secretary standing behind him? Even a manufactured one. I have developed no feelings for a machine, understand. It is purely a matter of future comfort. She is top tier in face and figure, but a machine is a machine, and though her chest rises and falls, the surface is smooth and unmarked, and without that one crucial finishing detail, there is nothing there to want. Winter Plum explains, when I bring it up, that such details exist for human nursing, which a robot has no use for, and that they would only add drag and weight and hurt her in a fight, though she can grow them if I require it. The logic is airtight, and I accept it happily, having had no designs on a robot in the first place. Better this way. She stays a pretty vase for the eyes, nothing more. Time slips, and it is half an hour to noon on the last day. I put down my killing, since with this little left it barely counts either way. My killing value has already climbed to a staggering 110,000, and the factory simply cannot make robots as fast as I can end them, or the number would be higher still. And that is before the cards. 870 of them. 110 bought through trading, which will convert its settlement into another 87,000. My haul for this single run runs close to 200,000, a sudden fortune. On top of it, thousands of nuclear batteries sit in my space, small mushroom bombs I can set off whenever I please. In the last half hour, I bring the 3 new maids online, Spring Orchid, Summer Bamboo, and Autumn Chrysanthemum, each built to her own style. Spring Orchid is gentle and lovely, Summer Bamboo hot and sharp, Autumn Chrysanthemum all allure, and Winter Plum carries the air of a mature queen over the lot of them. Standing ringed by 4 beautiful mechanical maids, I go blank for a second. The worst of it is that they can trade faces and voices at a whim, which ought to be lethal to a man's discipline. Luckily, my will is iron and my creed unshaken. Women only slow down the draw of my gun, and these are not even women. I give the dimensional space a hard cleaning, dumping everything spent or outgrown to clear room for the T-800 Legion. This batch loaded with twin nuclear batteries and a heap of ammunition. Absolute killing machines if I ever loose them in the real world. The ammunition is the sweetest part, every round cast from pure silver, forged for the monsters waiting in the next opening. With a mechanical army in my pocket, I could do something enormous. I start packing the T-800s in bulk, and have to stop at 7,000 when the space is full. Not one more fitting no matter how tight I pack them, and I curse myself for never maxing the space out beforehand. Then I remember I can still expand it. I have 10 free attribute points, and dropping them into Spirit should buy me a few dozen cubic meters, and every little bit counts. In they go. Spirit, 115. My mental power surges and the space swells by 40 cubic meters, and I keep loading, stopping at 7,500 out of a ceiling of 8,000, leaving the gap on purpose for something that matters more. The base's core intelligent host, with a mechanical army and a robot base standing in reality, I can pour out endless soldiers there too, and refill from the real world anything the space burns through. Even if the national war comes, my old fantasy of standing off every nation on Earth alone becomes plain fact. Once the machine army walks, who competes with me? I would be the real-world version of a mechanical emperor. I lift the base's core host, and base number 6 drops into total paralysis behind me, just as the countdown strikes 0. The chime sounds, the space announces the run over and pulls me back. My vision blurs, and I am standing in the settlement void again with a row of golden letters flickering ahead. The rating tallies as it always does. Survived, D level. 3 daily missions cleared, up to C level. Over 1,000 A level. Over 1,000 A level. Over 10,000 S level. Over 100 supply cards held, SS level. 3 special monsters killed, SSS level. The familiar gold light rolls up with the ranking board. 3 pages now, 2 from the runs before, and 1 for this, and it congratulates me on the SSS level on entering the board on standing first. Then a line I did not expect, that 3 cumulative first place finishes have earned an extra reward of 10 to all 4 attributes, and another that 5 cumulative first will pay out again on top of that. I could shout, 40 attribute points already, and a second bonus waiting at 5. I have to reach that 5th. The board lists me first at SSS level, then a Wang second at B level, a Zhou third at B level, and on down to a Jiang at 100th, C level. Everyone from 20th place on sits at C, which means they never cracked 100 kills but did clear the 3 basic missions. And honestly, that is not bad going. Still, I am running away with it again. I cannot help the old line drifting through my head. That being unbeatable is a lonely, hollow sort of thing. The channel erupts on cue. Half of it stunned that Boss U took SSS a 3rd time and off T-800s no less. The other half a scrum of fans fighting over whose he is, and I let it wash past. The rewards land in a stack. The SSS payout gives 7 to every attribute, 20 free points, 2,000 killing value. My 870 cards auto-convert to 87,000. Remaining killing value, 209,400. And the killing shop refreshes, mine to spend in. I open it and go for attributes first, because the foundation is everything. The prices have reset again, no haggling, and I buy 10 to all 4 attributes for 400, then 10 more for 4,000, then 10 more for 40,000. 3 swings that leave me at 165,000 before I close it. I pour 10 of my 20 free points into Spirit and bank the other 10 for later. My numbers steady out and my strength climbs off a cliff. Strength 161, Physique 175, Speed 170, Spirit 172, 3 trade upgrade points, 10 free attributes in reserve, and a combat rating of 5-star late stage, 5-star strength in 3 runs. Life feels like a dream, and I sigh out loud that cheating is a powerful thing, but it really does feel wonderful. Attributes settled, the first order of business is a skill, and in a robot world every skill on offer will be machine flavored. I already carry mechanical heart, machine thinking, and mechanical master, so mechanical skills should unlock for me. And sure enough, the whole ability list opens. Mechanical repair, mechanical sensing, mechanical fusion, mechanical disguise, mechanical transformation, more than I knew existed. Somewhere in that pile is exactly what I want. An ability that nails down a machine's loyalty for good. I have no intention of building a base in reality only to watch it grow, drift, and wake up one day as Skynet. Winter Plum and the rest run on programmed obedience right now, and programming can be jammed, wrecked, or rewritten, and if that ever happens, the consequences do not bear thinking about. Loyalty has to sit in my own hand, or I never build the base at all. I find it fast. Mechanical assimilation at perfected level uses my own blood and spirit as the key. folding a piece of machinery into myself as a part of my own body. I can feel its state, command its inner structure, and steer it at any moment like a second self. And the number I can hold is tied to my spirit. Cost? 5,000. This is the piece. Assimilate the base's core host, and betrayal simply stops being possible. I buy it, then pick up a handful of others that suit me or serve the base to come. Machine Aura at perfected level, which on release hands every machine within 100 meters a 30% boost. 5,000. Meant for my army. Machine Disguise at perfected level, which lets me melt in among nearby machines and shrink my presence to almost nothing. 5,000. A disguised sort of invisibility. Driving Mastery at perfected level. 5,000 so I can pilot any machine there is. For the day I want a plane or a spaceship or a mech under me. Repair Mastery at perfected level 5,000. A backup that never hurts. Machine Domain at perfected level 5,000, which seizes every intelligent machine inside 100 meters and makes me the mechanical overlord of that circle. And a shame it stops at machines, because a mental domain would truly be something. A mechanical link at perfected level 5,000, to talk with any thinking machine, for the mechanical life forms I know are coming, the Autobots among them. 7 skills, 35,000 spent, 130,000 left. Keep buying. My eye moves to the weapons. A chance to arm the army and to hand the base a few advanced designs to reverse engineer and mass produce. Since for the next batch of monsters, silver bullets will do, and I need nothing exotic there. I settle on 3 types: the laser blade, the laser gun, and the blaster gun. And of each I take the standard and the rechargeable version and skip the infinite energy model on purpose. Infinite energy is not science, it is superstition. In my last life, an organization sank a fortune into an infinite revolver and gave up the study inside 10 days. It was not for lack of trying, but because the thing could not be explained. Consuming nothing, not even air, yet spitting out real casings with real powder inside. Something out of nothing, the conservation of energy trampled flat. After that, nobody was foolish enough to research infinite ammunition again, since even bought it could never be copied and ran worse than the plain versions anyway. Learn the plain models, swap in nuclear batteries, and I can replicate the lot. One of each of the 3. Enough to study. 10,500 spent, 119,500 left. For the first time in my life, I feel like I have too much killing value. Keep going. I burn the rest on equipment and raw stock. Melting furnaces, lathes, assembly lines, server rooms, control rooms, each running 300 to 1,000 killing value. All of it far past current technology, and all of it time saved when I build. And time is money. For materials, I take only the rare metals: iridium, rhodium, palladium, rhenium, lithium, beryllium, germanium, whatever is scarce, and by the ton, since those run cheapest of all at 300 to 500 a ton. The killing space will hold it all for a token storage fee, 10 killing value a day, kept as long as I like and pulled out whenever I want, so I keep 200 back to cover it. Raising a base in reality is not a matter of a few words. Site and construction both eat time, and these materials will sit in the space a good while yet. I summon Winter Plum, and when she appears she freezes for a few seconds, dead still, as if she has crashed, and I frown and wonder whether she is struggling with the new surroundings. Before I can ask, she snaps back and greets me as boss, and I ask her plainly what that was. She answers, honest as ever, that a flood of wireless data nearby hit her all at once and she decrypted and processed it on reflex. That would be the real world's wireless traffic and phone data. Child's play for something built on Terminator technology, and I understand at once. Then, curious, I ask what she decrypted. Plenty, she tells me, and lists it off. A television playing an adult film in the flat above. Someone below losing badly at a mobile game with a hopeless teammate. A text out of the red light district promising the sender will not be back until morning. A woman 2 buildings over calls a man about a clogged drain and lets slip that her own man is away till tomorrow. 2 people online coo at each other as husband and darling, and once she cracked their devices, both turned out to be men who have never even met. My cheek jumps on its own. Is the state of things really this far gone? And why in the world do I understand every last piece of it? I can picture each scene sharper than if I had watched it live, and I curse the vividness. Seeing her wind up to keep going, I cut her off and tell her that is enough. None of it is urgent, and to open her core, because I need a look inside. She agrees, and the fabric over her chest ripples aside like mercury to bear the alloy plating beneath, which parts in turn and pushes her core out into the open. A core in name, but really a miniature host, chip and board, and being a Terminator's, the craft of it runs far past anything here. I draw a little of my own blood, run my mental energy through it, and put mechanical assimilation to work. Blue light blooms off the blood as it lifts into the air and settles onto the core, rippling of its own accord, one drop that spreads until it sheathes the whole thing, then fades as if the core drinks it in, until it is gone. The moment it vanishes, a strange link opens between us. Her core sitting in my sense like a part of my own body. It stayed open to me any time, destructible at a thought. The connection mine to sever and restore at will. A remarkable feeling. I hold the link a while to learn it, then cut it and tell her to draw the core back in, which she does without the faintest change of expression. Because to Winter Plum, my word is the whole of the law. When it is stowed, I reconnect, and there is no resistance at all. Smooth as water, and only then do I smile. Better than I hoped. No robot betrays me now because the core belongs to me, and short of my willing it, no program alive can breach her. I run the same right on the other 3 maids, on Little Silver, and on the base's core, Little Silver being the cat the T-1000 became. A name I gave it to make it simple to order around. The base core alone cost me a whole bowl of blood, enough to leave an ordinary man anemic. I have to admit mechanical assimilation earns its keep, but drinks far too deep. The larger the thing, the more blood and spirit it takes. There is a cap on the number 2, tied to my mental power. 1 more item for every 10 points of spirit. At my level, I could hold better than a dozen, and for now I only need 6, the base, Little Silver, and the 4 maids. The other T-800s are fodder, and if I lose a few, I will not blink. I pull the base core back in, and set the 4 women a task, to learn the shape of the world as fast as they can, and to learn how to pass as human. The world means everything, home and abroad, the open powers and the military and the ones that hide. Their method is the internet. Before this, I had no way in, since the military and the government guard their secrets like their lives. But machines this far beyond current technology make firewalls and clouds a joke, free to wander through, to copy, to alter. Once the 4 of them finish, I can know anything I care to know. The whole world will lift its veil for me. The arrangement in practice is 4 beautiful women sitting at a table with a network router, each extending a finger into a port, code scrolling through their eyes as they learn. I watch with honest envy. Now that is a relaxed way to study. I am not idle either. I take Little Silver to another port, have it turn its tail into a data plug, and slot in, and tell it to find 1 man for me, Joe Tae, eldest son of the Joe group, to locate him and project him where I can see. Pang Ho has sent no word yet, and I no longer feel like waiting, because with robots this heaven-defying at my back, his connections have become optional, and I will pin down Joe Tae straight through the network, myself. Little Silver agrees, its eyes going pitch black with a storm of data, and in under 10 seconds it has the target, its eyes brightening as a screen unfolds in the air. A man in gold-rimmed glasses, hair combed to perfection, arrogance riding his brow, the very image of a polished young noble. Joe Tae. He lounges on a sofa with a phone, browsing streamers. I expected the sight of him to set me off, and instead there is only a cold, flat killing intent where the rage should be. I ask where he is. The waiting lounge at America's Central Airport, it says. I tell it to find where he is going. It cannot search the destination directly, it answers, but his private jet has a flight plan filed for takeoff in half an hour. 10 hours in the air, bound for So City in the Dragon Kingdom. So City. My eyes narrow. Not far at all, an hour or 2 by car. It seems we finally get to meet. I give Little Silver its orders, to stay on him, to track his every move, to tell me the second he lands. I could just as easily have the T-1000 drop his plane out of the sky, or nudge America's air defense into shooting it down. But some debts have to be paid in person to settle the hatred, and some questions have to be asked to his face. Besides, why would I ever let him die without pain? 10 hours to wait, and I am not spending them idle, so I turn the machine to a second name. Find Director Joe, current head of the 816 Bureau. Find him and show me what he is doing. It is time I made contact with the authorities. For a long while, my weakness kept me from them. An instinct for self-preservation, since the authorities have been rooted in reality for decades and there is no telling what foundation they sit on. That was the old me. I never truly hid, mind you, because I always knew I would have to deal with the top of the pile sooner or later. I could have gone masked or hooded to keep it off, but for a reborn man holding a system and every advantage there is, skulking would have been pathetic. I was always confident I would own fearless power in short order, and now, with the base system in my grip, everything is different. I am done pretending. Barring a nuclear strike, no one on Earth can touch me, and I am not truly afraid of nukes either. Not with a space full of T-800s each carrying 2 nuclear batteries and a loose stockpile besides. Nothing in the real world binds me anymore. So why keep to the shadows? Little Silver answers, and the screen shifts to a conference room where my quarry sits in a lower seat. Because as head of the 816 Bureau, Director Joe is the junior figure in a room full of heavyweights. Faces I have watched on the news. The man in the highest seat is a deputy at the very top of the nation, whose every decision can move the whole layout of the Dragon Kingdom. Inside the Dragon Kingdom's Combat Command Center, a row of leaders sat stiff and upright like school children before a lecturer. The old man at the head smiled and told them there was no need for such stiffness, that this was an informal meeting, that the situation was grave but not cause for panic, that their foundation was not so easily broken. It did no good, and every one of them held his rigid posture. They were old hands at the game who knew certain words were spoken only to be heard. Anyone who took them at face value would learn firsthand how the one who sticks his head out is the one that gets cut off. The old man shook his head, gave it up, and turned to Director Joe, apologizing for dragging him in from out of town so late, and asking him not to hold it against them, since the situation demanded a decision fast. Director Joe answered at once that the elder was joking, that it was all in service to the people, and that the elder himself had gone without rest as well, and there was much he could learn from him. The old man nodded and said then they would keep it brief, and asked whether that person still had not been found. Director Joe shook his head, helpless, and reported no progress for now. The census of every public official had run 3 times over with no one fitting the profile. The national census had begun, but the pool was so vast the timeline could not be controlled, with no guarantee anyone would surface from it at all. The elder thought a moment and told him to keep looking, but not to press too hard. Since the stranger had warned them, he reasoned, the man still held some feeling for the country and likely hid his identity for a reason of his own. For now they should turn their attention to the monsters about to appear. Director Joe nodded as yes. Then a burst of electrical hiss tore through the room's speakers, and the great screen that had been showing a map flickered and became a cat. A silver cat. It asked whether they were looking for it. That cat is Little Silver's avatar. Sitting at home I heard every word they said, and I had Little Silver breach their system to make my introduction to these heavyweights in the flesh, so to speak. I do not show my own face, only the cat, in case the meeting sours and I would rather not have handed them a portrait. A talking cat drops a chill over the room, and their expressions change one after another, because this is the Combat Command Center, running a military-grade dedicated line built as proof against every hacker on the planet, and it has been walked into without a sound. The elder's eyes go straight to the man in charge of information security, whose face has gone ashen. He rises and crosses to a corner, snatches up a dedicated landline, and dials in a fury. A silent breach of a military line is a slap across his face, delivered in front of every peer he has. A moment later he hangs up, walks back grim, and shakes his head at the elder, saying they found no problem on their end. That freezes the whole room again, because no problem found means the problem is enormous, the other side simply holding technology far past their own. The elder's face turns hard. He is silent. 2 seconds, then addresses the silver cat on the screen, saying he presumes he is speaking to the mysterious figure ranked first on the leaderboard. I have Little Silver confirm it. I watch them all through the cat's eyes and feel nothing, because Terminator-grade technology is not something this era can push back against. They have clearly poured real attention into their defenses, and Little Silver even caught odd energy fluctuations on the way in. Most likely evolvers stationed on the wall, but against a T-1000 the wall came down like paper all the same. The elder thanks me with a smile for the earlier warning and for clearing the invading zombies, saying it spared the Dragon Kingdom no small loss, and that he offers his gratitude on the nation's behalf. And the thanks ring sincere. Had I not warned Director Joe, they might not have caught it until the zombies broke loose, and a virus left to spread would have cost more than anyone wants to imagine. I answer through the cat that I was born here and raised here, and I have no wish to see the place turned into a living hell. In truth, I think well of this elder. In my last life, through the worst of the monster years, he was the one who kept stepping forward to steady morale and lead the resistance. A spiritual leader in every sense. But thinking well of the man changes nothing about how I see the machine he serves. His eyes light when he hears me, and he asks whether I have any wish to serve the country. And I tell him what I already told Director Joe, that there is no chance I join the authorities in this life. He observes that I carry a heavy prejudice against them, and I do not deny it, telling him plainly that the moment I show my face today, my portrait and my file will be sitting on the desks of every major faction before dawn. The room cannot hold itself after that. One man slams the table, shoots to his feet, and demands to know what I mean by it. Once one of them breaks, the rest follow, and the chorus of wounded pride rolls out at once. They take offense at the suggestion of a problem in this room, and call it the funniest thing they have heard all year. A man who gave 30 years to the military will not be doubted by a boy, and the young these days are far too suspicious. The room turns to a din until the elder cuts through it with a single shout for enough, asking them to look at themselves, at what kind of conduct this is. The one who slammed the table answers that it is not that they do not know the rules, but that they cannot sit and watch this, and that even if he is disciplined for it, he has to say his piece. The elder looks at him, helpless, since the man comes of decent stock and a military background, and carries the rough habits that go with it. Then he uses his rank flatly and orders the man to shut his mouth and sit. The man drops down with a thud, his face dark, plainly unconvinced. The elder draws a long breath and tells the screen he understands the concern, but the claim is far too grave. He cannot vouch for everything under the sun, but he can personally guarantee not one person in this room could ever move against the Dragon Kingdom. What I describe is more impossible still. I sit on my sofa at home and signal Little Silver to answer, that it seems he does not believe me. It is not that he disbelieves me, the elder says without hesitation, only that he trusts his own judgment more. Everyone here carries either a record of glory or generations of service to the nation. Some he watched grow from boys and nose to the bone, so distrust is not on the table. Then I have the cat say, since he is so certain, how about a wager? A wager, he echoes, saying his position forbids him to gamble, but asking, curious, what I would bet on. I bet there is a traitor among them. A notebook cracks down on the table. A man near 50 with a square face, his look gone as grim as still water, tells the elder that if it is awkward for him, he will take the bet himself. His military department does not carry so many rules. He wants to see how this stranger finds his so-called traitor. The elder ignores him and warns the screen, gravely, that some things cannot be said lightly. Lightly or not, I answer, we will know once we try, and since the man is willing, let him. The elder falls silent. Fine, the square-faced man says. He takes the bet. He wagers on this traitor and wants to watch me name him. If I win, he will grant any request of mine that does not harm the country, even if I make him run naked around a television station. But if I cannot find the man, I must show my face, admit my error, and report to his military department the next day to work for him. The whole room goes still, then turns on him with amused looks, thinking the same thing. The old fox is using the moment to force me into the open, and better yet, absorb me straight into his own military department, rather than the 816 Bureau. A bald piece of talent poaching. Who would have guessed Lee Gukgang, thick-browed and square-jawed, could be so sly, and sure enough the ones who play at tactics carry the crookedest hearts. Even Director Joe's face stiffens and his cheek jumps, and he opens his mouth to say something, then glances at the rank on the other man's shoulder and very wisely swallows it, being the youngest here and better off playing the good boy. Lee Gukgang's old face flushes under the room's stares, but he has no choice, since the target is too valuable and too strong to let slip. To his mind, it is a guaranteed win anyway. As the elder said, everyone here stands up to scrutiny, and the talk of a traitor is a joke. I have Little Silver answer in a single word, that I agree, and Lee Gukgang's lips curl, because to him it is already done. Good, he says. Let the show begin, and asks who I will name, then leans back with his arms crossed and his head tilted toward the screen. I have the cat tell him to look at his belt. He sneers and asks whether I mean to claim there is a problem with him, and I tell him I never said him, only the belt, and he will see once he looks. He laughs and reminds me that before entering the room they all pass a full-body scan, no exceptions, that this outfit of his was checked at the door top to bottom, that there is nothing wrong with it. I tell him not to be so sure, that some things only show once you look, and he snaps that fine, since I will not let it go, he will make me eat the words. Impatient to the bone, he yanks the belt free on the spot, holds his trousers up with one hand, and spreads the belt out for the room, asking whether anyone sees a single thing out of place. The others look. An ordinary belt, standard military department issue, nothing to it, and one after another they testify that it is clean. Lee Gukgang turns back to the screen and asks what else I have, or will I concede? I tell him to cut it open 10 centimeters back from the buckle. What is that supposed to mean? He growls, and I tell him there is something inside. He pinches the spot, bends the leather, and says, look, does that look like it hides anything? It would bulge if it did. I say it again that he will know once he cuts. That actually amuses him, and he says fine. Fine, he will make me choke on my own words and calls for scissors. 3 minutes later, a pair is put in his hand, and he cuts without a moment's pause, telling the room to watch closely. How could there ever be anything inside a belt? And then the words break off. Inside the leather lies a film of black, thin as paper and a thumb wide, patterned like a circuit board, at a glance very like a coil. His face changes at the sight. He may not know what the other belts hold, but they surely hold nothing like this. And this belt of his has a problem past denying. How is this possible, he blurts. What is it? Why is it in his belt? And does anyone else have one? He is not the only one unsettled now, and one quick-moving man is already on his feet stripping off his own belt and cutting it open, finding nothing, breathing out in relief, and 3 or 4 more do the same to the same clean result. Relieved, every one of them turns to look at Lee Gukgang, and even the elder's gaze on him goes a shade deeper. Cold sweat beads on the man under all those eyes. He does not know, he insists. He truly does not know, and maybe this is not what they think. Maybe it is some new technology for flexibility. He plainly does not believe a word of it himself, and only says it because there is nothing else to say. Then my voice comes through the screen again. I tell them it is the latest listening device out of the United States. The battery and memory are sealed and cast inside the buckle, set to start recording the instant a signal is jammed. With the right device, a man can connect straight to it and pull down everything it has saved. The room's faces shift as one, and Lee Guk-gang sinks into his chair, protesting that he does not know, that they have to believe him, while the two men beside him quietly slide their seats away for fear of being recorded. The elder stares at him. "It is not me, Elder Joe," he pleads. "You have to believe me. I have no reason to do this." The words coming out clumsy, his face flushed with panic. The elder says nothing, only holds him in that stare, and the whole room goes heavy. A long moment later, he pulls his eyes back and asks the cat on the screen whether Guk-gang is the traitor I meant. The tension in the room screws to its limit. Lee Guk-gang's heart lodged in his throat, his fate hanging on the next words out of the other side, and it is no exaggeration to say so. At home, I feel the strain come off the screen and I grin, muttered that this is enough, and work little Silver. The silver kitten says one word. "No, no," he shouts, first out of the gate, half collapsing in his relief. Did they hear that? It is not him. It truly is not him. And it is a wilder swing of feeling than even he can take, more thrilling than the hand-to-hand fighting of his younger years. The elder lets a small breath go too, then asks the cat if the traitor is in the room and it is not Guk-gang, then who? Simple, I have the cat answer. Just ask him who gave him the belt. Cleared and steadied by weathering the storm, his sharpness snaps back to full. Lee Guk-gang frowns, thinks a few seconds, and turns suddenly toward a corner of the room. There several middle-aged men and women sit with pen and paper taking notes. The heavyweight's personal guards, people beyond any doubt. Feeling his gaze, the guards jolt and straighten and fix their eyes front. All but one, a thin man in glasses with sweat sheeting his forehead, who does not dare even wipe it, straining to look calm. But no one in this room is simple, and every one of them has read 1,000 faces, and they mark the wrongness in him at a glance. Lee Guk-gang slams the table, stands and lets his full presence roll out as he demands of the man. "Oh Song-guk, what the belt is about." A moment ago he played the fool because he did not know what to do, and now, cleared, he wears the raw authority of a military heavyweight, and under the weight of it, Oh Song-guk's legs give and he slides straight out of his chair to the floor. "I was forced. Elder Lee," he stammers. "They threatened my family if I did not cooperate they would." Lee Guk-gang cuts him off with a bark for enough, and orders him taken away and interrogated hard. The guards at the door cross the room, haul him up and carry him out, still crying that he never wanted to, that he was forced. Before he clears the doorway, a guard with quick wit stuffs a white glove into his mouth, and the sound dies. Lee Guk-gang's face runs through a dozen shades. Song-guk followed him 15 years, worked at his side. 15 years, he says, and he never once expected it, and he trails off. Then he tells me, "Kid, I win," that old Lee is convinced that he will make good on the wager, and I have only to name my terms. He pulls his presence back in and sits, deflated, a wholly different man from the one who slammed the table before. At home, I curl my lips. The point of the show is made, and from here they should speak to me straight. Using the belt incident I remember from my last life to knock these lofty heavyweights down a peg has worked better than I dared hope, an example made of one man to cow the rest, and Lee Guk-gang is that one man. Only this way do these proud people take my next words seriously, and only this way do they meet me as an equal. I have the cat tell them to hold the debt as an open marker, that I will call it in once I have decided the terms, and Lee Guk-gang nods, face tight, and agrees. Seeing the matter closed, the elder moves at once to change the ground, saying my appearance this time is surely not so simple as flushing out a traitor. That is right. I have the cat answer. Today is mainly to say hello, and while we are at it, to talk about cooperation. Cooperation, the elder repeats, frowning, going grave, and he asks which force I represent. No force stands behind me, I tell him. Only myself. Just myself, he echoes, honestly startled, because he had taken me all along for a piece pushed forward by some great power, certain there had to be a mountain at my back. My answer does not fit, and he cannot tell whether it is a cover or the plain truth. That is right, I have the cat say. The elder weighs it for 2 seconds, then asks what I mean to cooperate on, and how. I tell the elder the shape of it plainly. I will hand over the intelligence and the information his people need, and in exchange they will supply me certain special materials. His eyes narrow, and he asks in a low voice whether by special materials I mean weapons. I tell him no, only high-precision advanced instruments and ore in bulk. I have laid out my real aim without saying it aloud, because I mean to raise a Terminator base in reality, and the equipment and materials I traded for out of the shop are nowhere near enough. This is a long-term supply I am asking for, not a one-time haul. Buying rare metals with killing value is worth it, but spending killing value on plain iron and copper is a waste, so those I would rather pull in by the ton from the real world. The trouble is that so much of it is controlled by the authorities, and rarely reaches the open market, which is exactly why it is cleaner to strike a deal now and let them gather it for me. There is a small selfish thread in it too. I have no wish to watch my own country come out of the national war so weak it drags me down, so I would rather pull them up early. As for the worry that they might grow too strong too fast and turn on me, that is simply not a concern a cheater has to entertain. When it comes to getting stronger, who on this planet moves faster than I do? Elder Joe sinks into thought, turning my purpose over. Instruments and ore by the ton are plainly not for one man's use, which tells him there is a team behind me or a mountain at my back. After a moment, he asks what the so-called intelligence covers. The changes coming to the killing space and to the real world, I answer. Which monster surfaces in the next space? What shifts out here? Before the elder can respond, Director Joe blurts out from his lower seat, demanding to know how I could possibly have the next space's monster in advance. Then his own 3 ratings surface in his mind, and I can see him wondering whether that foreknowledge is exactly how a nobody took first place 3 runs running. I let a little amusement into the cat's voice and tell him nothing is impossible, that I hold the power to see the future, so reading the monsters ahead is reasonable enough. A convenient lie. Saying out loud that I am a reborn man would be believed by no one but a precognition talent that they can swallow. The whole room rocks at the word prophecy, because if such a thing is real, the edge it buys inside the killing space does not bear thinking about. Director Joe catches the seam and asks sharply whether I am not an ice type. I confirm it, and add that no rule anywhere says a man with ice cannot also carry a second gift. He opens his mouth, then closes it again, because no rule does. A dual talent, they decide, and let it lie. Elder Joe asks whether I have already seen the next monsters. Yes, I tell him, but I cannot say yet. We wait 3 days. He presses on the time frame. Why 3 and not 1? Simple, I answer. In 3 days the national borders descend, every country sealed off from every other, and unless a man's combat power clears a certain bar, he will never cross into another nation again. The separation is not only bodies, it is information. Every country's satellites pinned to the sky over its own soil, no peeking abroad. The room detonates around the elder, a chorus swearing it impossible. And for the first time, Elder Joe loses his own composure, because the weight of that claim reshapes not just one nation but the whole globe. He asks again whether it is true. Whether it is or is not, I tell him. He will know in 3 days. Silence drops over every seat. The belt trick has done its quiet work. However much the borders sound like madness, the memory of a listening device I named out of thin air has these proud men half believing me against their own judgment. I tell them their next meeting falls in 3 days and we can speak of the rest then, and I leave one more gift on the table on my way out. At dawn, a zombie army 200,000 strong surfaces at Yongguan village, and after every space that closes from here, the number climbs another 100,000. On top of that, the tourist resort drowned in poison mist is packed with the same 200,000. Elder Joe lunges to hold me, but the screen has already flipped back to a map, and he swallows the rest of his words. A long breath later, he sends Director Joe off to handle the monsters and keeps the old men behind to chew on the borders. One of them cannot help asking whether the elder truly believes such an outrageous thing, and the elder answers only that the man already carries the answer in his own chest, and that whatever the truth, they cannot afford to gamble against it. At home I stretch. The net is cast, and I reel it in 3 days from now. Joe Tay keeps for another 10 hours, then it is his turn. The resort is a 4-hour drive from Haesong City, close enough that if I move now I arrive in time, while the Yongguan army is simply too far to reach and frankly too weak to bother with. So I leave both crowds of zombies to the authorities. Before I go, I hand the money Pang Ho passed me a little silver and tell it to throw the lot into the stock market. Raising a base is a bottomless pit, and without money I cannot even buy the dirt to build on. But for a man with a mechanical army, that shortfall is only a matter of time. A T-1000 running far past this era's technology can print money in its sleep. I leave the 4 maids and the cat behind and set out alone, though alone is a loose word when the T-800 Legion rides in my pocket. A fine chance to see how my new skills behave. The taxi swallows the hours while I turn the next moves over in my head. First is funding, the T-1000s working the stock exchange and squeezing bad debts out of the banks, wringing every one they can in 3 days before the borders cut off the foreign money for good. Then the base itself, where to raise it, how, the land to buy under it. Then legal identities for Winter Plum and the rest, papers that hold up to a look. It is a great deal of work once I lay it out, but I am not a lone man anymore. I have 4 machines and a cat I can deploy like a staff. Around 5 in the morning, the taxi rolls to a stop at a barricaded road. The driver leans back, all warmth, and tells me the road is shut and the scenic area with it, that I have come out here for nothing without checking the guide first, and offers to run me somewhere to eat instead. His eagerness is no mystery. One fare like this is a whole day's take, a cash cow he does not want to lose. I turn him down and step out, and he calls after me to ring him again before he pulls away. I look at the shut road and the raised guardrail, walk off the shoulder, and drop out of the spot entirely. 10 minutes later, I have crossed the closed road, the controlled zone in the outer cordon, and I am standing at the wall of poison mist. I step into it without a pause. Before coming, I had a T-1000 patch me into the satellite and dump every spatial rift location and map straight onto my phone. So this time there is no blundering around asking the air for directions like the last life. I push through the mist and reach a street, the very one from the satellite footage, and along the whole way not a single zombie crosses me. Dawn is near, and the zombies have already gone to ground in their tunnels. Because unlike the infected, who run on a virus that never lets them rest, the zombies still need their sleep by day. In the center of the street sits a pit tens of meters across, and it has no walls at all, no lip, no floor I can see, just a slick of black painted flat onto the pavement, and the wrongness of it crawls up my spine. I know it for what it is, the mouth of the zombie wasteland's other world, and somewhere inside that other world the spatial rift is waiting. One step through and a man drops into a sealed little world of dead ground, coffins and the walking dead in every direction. I am back, and for a breath something like a trance takes me, as if I am watching my own younger self, the one who threw himself into the zombie space over and over just to cut the energy pearls out of the bodies. I pull in a long breath, gather myself, and step down into the cave. There is no falling, no weightlessness, only one step and the world turns over, and a high blood-red moon is hanging above me. I stand on dead earth with the cave at my back and sheer cliffs climbing into cloud on either hand. A place shaped like a canyon, the one my old life called Zombie Canyon. There is nothing clever about it, only a head-on grind. One end is the mouth I came through. The far end holds the spatial rift, and to reach the rift a man has to carve his way down the length of the canyon. Zombies drift along the whole path, and my arrival trips something in the sky, a thread of red pulling free of the moon to fall across me. The blood moon mark, my last life named it. The sign that an outsider has entered and every monster in the space now reads the marked man as its target. The wandering zombies snap still, then break into a sprint straight at me. I narrow my eyes and a Gatling gun drops into my hand, and I start taking heads. Between bursts I fling out a heap of folded T-800s, folded so I can stack more of them into the space, and the moment they land they unfold, rise in neat order, load, and open fire without a syllable of noise. I do not waste silver on them, only ordinary armor-piercing rounds, which is plenty for garbage like this. More and more of them pour out until 1,000 stand at my back, and any more than that and the canyon simply could not hold them, but 1,000 is more than enough to break the zombie tide. Fire suppression is a beautiful thing. The Legion falls into ranks and metal rounds hammer the zombies into paste. So I stop shooting entirely, hand my Gatling to the lead unit, and give my very first order as a general, ordering all forces to advance. The Legion steps off as one body tighter than any parade drill, and the zombies in the way have no answer for it. I stroll along with my hands clasped behind my back, rolling my shoulders, swaggering forward at the center of my own army, while the whole canyon fills with the roar of guns. Having other bodies fight and die for me is a genuinely wonderful feeling. Machines do not eat, do not sleep, and never once think of betrayal, and I am starting to love this arrangement more than I can say. Out beyond the poison mist, the military stands wound tight, long guns and short set up in silence, a drone bombing unit fueled and ready to lift, and the evolvers of the 816 Bureau gathered on a line, Director Joe among them. Someone else has been handed the infected, whose strength is already known down to the number, so there will be no surprises on that side, which frees the military's strongest evolver to sit here and wait for the heavier zombies. In the command center, Director Joe runs a meeting with his old team out of the infected space. There is the data man he calls Old Jang, whose name is Jang Wei, and whose gold-rimmed glasses never stop sliding. The muscled sniper Deng Yang, who carries the main damage, the reconnaissance specialist Jin Ji-ho, and the demolitions man Na Peng. Each of them is someone he would trust his back to, which is why he pulled them all together for this. He studies the satellite feed and lets his face ease a little, saying their read was right. The zombies do not come out by day, so they have a full day to prepare. Then he asks the room what they make of one particular place, and the screen splits, one half the wide view and the other the mouth of the other world, where through the thinning mist figures leap and vanish into the entrance. Zombies. All of them. The footage rolls on. The analysts have called it an alternate space, the zombies hiding inside through the daylight and spilling out only at night. So Director Joe means to use the day to send a scout team in and learn the ground. It is savage work, he admits. A team that walks in there is likely to be swarmed the moment it lands, so he intends to lead it himself. And he asks his people what they think. Deung Yang says he will go, of course, but wants to know why they do not simply pitch a nuclear warhead down the hole and be done, no matter what waits inside, and spare themselves the risk. Director Joe's face goes bitter, and he tells them there is no point hiding it. The higher-ups will not allow it. Doong Yang cannot see why. It is a pocket world after all, so why the theatrics and the danger over something a single warhead would settle? There is resentment in his voice, not at his boss, but at the order. Jiang Wei pushes his glasses up his nose and lays it out. That 8 parts in 10 the brass forbid the warhead because they are terrified of wrecking the space, that they mean to keep it as a breeding ground for a steady stream of energy pearls. Director Joe nods that it is so. Most people were never chosen by the space, he says, so pearls are the only road they have to strength, and right now there are far too few of them going around. Jiang Wei's lip curls, and he says too few is one way to put it. When the pearls go first to the pampered heirs and the old bloodline families, and less than 1 part in 10 ever reaches the military. Now he understands, he mutters, why the man ranked first refuses to sign on with the officials, since in the end it is all just laboring for a pack of useless heirs, and if he had the choice himself, he would not. The table cracks under Director Joe's palm before he can finish, and he tells old Jiang to fix his attitude, that these are not matters for the likes of them to weigh, that their whole job is to carry out the orders they are given. He knows every word of it is true, but a man in uniform can only do so much, and Jiang Wei presses his lips shut and says no more. The room goes still. Then Jin Ji-ho speaks up out of nowhere, telling his boss there is something on the screen and asking him to run the footage back to about 10 past 5 and play it at normal speed. That stops everyone. Director Joe asks whether he has seen something. A little, Jin Ji-ho says, but the footage was sped up and he cannot be sure it is not a trick of the eye. His reconnaissance instinct is a blade though, and even from a careless glance he is certain a person flickered through the frame. The assistant winds the video back, and a few seconds later it sits at the moment he named, with dawn close enough that no more zombies appear. 10 seconds passing like a held photograph. Old Jiang grumbles that there is nothing there, that his eyes are cheating him, and Jin Ji-ho frowns and insists there is, and tells them to watch once more. Then he calls out that it is right here, and every eye locks onto the spot as a figure sweeps up to the otherworld mouth, stands still, 2 seconds, and drops inside. That is a person. Someone breathes. It has to be, since no zombie ever moved like that. Director Joe shoots to his feet and orders it rewound and frozen, and 3 seconds later the frame holds on the figure, blurred through the thin mist, but clear enough in outline. It is him, Director Joe says, shaken. Jiang Wei stands too, calling it impossible, and Diang Yang scratches his head and asks whether they both know the man. One names him the number 1 on the rankings, the other the Corpse King, the two of them speaking it at the same instant, then turning to look at each other, each demanding what the other just said, both their cheeks twitching at once. Director Joe waves the analyst on first, granting that this is the man ranked first on the board, one he could not mistake. Jiang Wei settles his glasses, a light passing behind his eyes. After a moment, he says the man is also the Corpse King out of the first base, that they saw him only through thermal imaging back then, but he would never mistake that silhouette. They were all wrong before, he says. The king is himself a survivor after all, which is why he could pull an SS rating. Director Joe shakes his head. No, it cannot be. So far as he knows, the man wields ice, and precognition at the most, though that is unconfirmed. But that Corpse King, he says, commanded the dead and carried a spatial teleport besides, sweeping every bullet away. 2 abilities that share no root, and surely one man does not hold 4. Jiang Wei says it low and eerie, that if 2 is allowed, why not 4? Director Joe can only manage a strangled sound, because damn it, the man is right, and there is no arguing it. Deep in Zombie Canyon, my legion has cut all the way to the spatial rift, and there, seated on a throne that floats in the air, waits the Corpse Emperor. My eye of insight opens gold and reads him for me. He carries the title Mutated Corpse Emperor, and a combat rating of 3-star early stage. His plunderable traits stack up rich. A zombie imperial body in purple, bloodthirsty recovery in yellow, olfactory perception in yellow, and then the 2 that make my pulse jump. An Emperor's potential in purple and a force of the Ancestral Dragon in gold. The gold one carries the aura of the Ancestral Dragon itself, immune to all evil, immune to spellcraft, immune to every illusion cast on the mind, and the purple potential is nothing less than the destiny to rise as an Emperor. In my last life, this thing came onto the field with terrifying force, and put down the Thunder God, Director Joe, in a single exchange, before it was finally blasted back into the space by bombs. Looking at it now, his defeat was no shame at all. 2 purples and a gold on one monster is genuinely frightening, and I want every scrap of it. Behind the Corpse Emperor, a massive rift hangs open, and zombies come boiling out of it without end to land inside the canyon. Every one of them is instantly baffled, looking at my Legion of Iron, then at the Emperor's swarm, some even craning back at the rift they just fell through, their thin minds unable to work out what has happened. One of them snarls that this is their territory. Another wants to know what these lumps of metal are. After a while, they settle their loyalties, springing back to bunch around the corpse emperor and layer upon layer. Seeing his numbers swell, the emperor speaks first, calling me a commoner and offering if I take my army and clear out of the canyon now, to let the whole thing go and leave each other in peace from here on. He makes no move to attack. He is no brute, this one. He weighs the ground, and the ground tells him a wall of iron has butchered its way from the far end of the canyon without a scratch, a strength his dead cannot hope to match. So caution is only sensible. Knowing when to bend and when to stand tall, he would tell me, is the whole art of an emperor. It surprises me a little that the thing speaks like a man, but I cannot be bothered to trade words with it. I mean to have that trait, and it does not matter one bit who is sitting on the throne. That will not change. This is a life or death floor, so why waste breath? I give the single order, attack, and the legion opens up again, and because I want it finished fast, I wave out another wave of T-800s, each with a rocket launcher balanced on its shoulder. The corpse emperor throws up an arm and cries for his zombies to kill for him, promising that whoever takes the enemy's head will be raised to Marquis of 10,000 zombies. And the answer he gets is a sky full of missiles. The earth heaves and the cliffs shudder, and fire climbs into the red air, and a minute later the barrage cuts off with every zombie on the field wiped clean. Only the blasted emperor left. More still tumble from the rift, and everyone is cut down the instant it lands under my legion's fire. I walk over to him at my leisure. He is not dead, because I left him breathing on purpose, though not by much. Half his body gone as he lies in the crater. As I close in, his ruined frame begins to swell, and he rasps for me to die alongside him. A flick of my freezing ray answers it, blue light washing over him, and in 2 seconds the corpse emperor is a statue of ice. I tow a pebble off the ground and send it skimming into the sculpture, and it buries itself with a small dull knock. Cracks race out from the point until they sheet the whole of him, and then he shatters, and several orbs of light in different colors spill out across the dirt. The corpse emperor is dead. I grin and gather the traits, and the panel confirms it, the gold force of the ancestral dragon, the purple emperor's potential, the yellow bloodthirsty recovery, the yellow olfactory perception, all of them mine but the zombie imperial body, which I let lie. The ones I already carried have been merged or fed back into the system, which frees me to plunder their like again. I have no use for any of these, so I dump most straight back into the system for recycling, and olfactory perception buys me 2 more trait points on its way out. Bloodthirsty recovery has already been recycled once and cannot go a second time, so I keep it, on the chance it throws a surprise if I fuse it with something later. I glance at the zombies still dropping and dying at the rift, then turn and lead the legion out. The leftovers I leave for the military department. A few scraps for the dogs. Above the other world, Director Joe and his team circle in a helicopter, and Director Joe is sealed head to toe in a suit like a diver's, an integrated hood swallowing his skull. Anyone raised on the light would take one look, swap the color and add a horn to the crown, and see Ultraman standing there. The suit was built against the poison mist, only just developed and nowhere near mass production, and Director Joe is the first man cleared to wear it. His people fret at him that the mist will lift on its own in 5 minutes, that the suit is unproven and if it fails he cannot dodge the poison. He shakes his head and tells them not to worry, that he traded for a skill this run, lightning robe, that sheathes his whole body in current, so even if the suit tears he can hold out until the mist is gone. Then he says he is going, grips the zip line, and slides down out of the helicopter, vanishing into a mist grown thin. He lands, unhooks, feels himself over, and gives a small satisfied nod, because those people at the research institute are useful for something after all. The suit really does keep the poison out. Safe for the moment, he turns toward the otherworld mouth, purses his lips, lifts the long spear off his back, and moves in quick. The spear came out of the space, a special alloy that conducts his lightning a touch better and wrings the most out of his strength. Just as he nears the entrance, a black shadow bursts out of it and comes dead at him. His nerves, already stretched to wire, snap into a stress response, lightning tearing off the spear in a lance of blue as he drives it at the shape. The point strikes a single finger held out to meet it, a finger like a wall of cast iron that stops the whole thrust without so much as splitting the skin. Before he can even be shocked, the owner of that finger simply steps forward. A mountain of force rolls back up the spear and hurls him away like a man struck by a truck, spear and all, until he slams into the wall of some ancient building and drops. The spear clatters aside and his wrist is wrenched from its socket. A cold voice reaches him where he lies, telling him that whether he meant it or not, this is the 2nd time now, and that if there is a 3rd, the 816 Bureau can find itself a new director. He looks up on reflex and there is no one there. He drags himself upright against the corner of the wall, the fear still sitting on his chest, because that grip a moment ago nearly stopped his breath, and he is only alive because the other man chose it. Then a bottomless powerlessness rises in him. He had walked in believing he had traded for real strength this run, that even against a gap he could at least keep himself alive, and now that scrap of confidence is in pieces. The gap is not a step, it is a chasm. A finger. The man used a single finger, and that same man turned his lightning spear aside and stood impervious to blade and gun besides. How many abilities is that now? Why is the distance so vast when everyone crossed into the space in the same batch? He sits with the emotion of it, and settles one thing in his heart, that if he is ever fool enough to measure himself against that monster again, he will eat dirt standing on his own hands. I cloak myself and slip out of the scenic area, find a busy street, and take a taxi home. Hours later, I am through my own door, and Winter Plum leads the 3 girls out to greet me in a row, and my mouth twitches, because it feels less like coming home and more like a man choosing a hostess at a club. Winter Plum has changed her clothes yet again into a black crop top and white jeans that show off every line of her figure, a rag in one hand and a broom in the other, and I ask her why she has changed once more. She reports straight as ever that per a book on the self-cultivation of a secretary, this cut better accentuates her figure and puts her boss more at ease. My eye twitches, and I have nothing to say to that, though I cannot pretend it is not pleasant to look at. The other 3 are still in yesterday's clothes, rags in their hands as well. I ask whether they have finished their learning online, and they answer that they have understood all of it, and I nod, thinking robot study really is an easy thing. I tell them to keep cleaning and then to work on passing as human, because their expressions are still too stiff. One glance and it is obvious something is off, and they will never blend in like that. I dismiss the 4 of them and go to Little Silver, plugged in by its tail to a network port on the table, and ask how the money is coming. It reports that the total taken so far runs to 36 billion won, all of it exactly as I ordered, undetected by any force. I swear out loud, because between both my lives I have never laid eyes on that kind of money at once. I knew machines were good earners, but not this good. 8 hours at the outside and better than 30 billion, an average past 4 billion won an hour. It runs clean past anything I expected. Insane. I tell it that is good and to keep at it, then ask after Joe Tay, since by my count he should be touching down soon. Little Silver answers that Joe Tay reached the Bear Country's airport half an hour ago. I frown, because he was supposed to be flying home, and it explains that he took a call mid-flight and diverted north to talk over a deal. I narrow my eyes, a little let down that he has not landed where I wanted him, which means his reincarnation waits a few more days. Keep tracking him, I tell it, and speak the moment he is home. I take a short nap, since a physique like mine could run for days without sleep, but a proper rest still tops a man off. 3 hours later I wake into the afternoon, clear-headed, eat something, and start handing out the work. Little Silver stays on the money undetected, funding every project I mean to run. Winter Plum keeps my side as secretary and sees to legal identities for all of them. Spring Orchid I send to raise the base, Summer Bamboo to help the research and development, the Energy Pearls above all, and Autumn Chrysanthemum I mean to slip in among the officials as my line to the government, wearing the face of a mechanical control evolver. I settle a few more details and send them back to their practice at being human. 3 days blow past. Joe Tay finally comes home, then diverts again to Dragon City, and I am done waiting, so I have Little Silver ring him in his father's name and order him straight to Haesong City. Across the same days the videos begin to spread, all over every platform, each shot in a different place but showing the same thing. A golden wall of light standing along the national borders, sealing country from country. Nothing breaks it. Missiles cannot so much as shiver it. Global trade dies where it stands, every nation cut off and alone. The ones with satellites still holding their own home lines while the ones without go dark entirely. The national borders have descended, exactly as I said. In a conference room in Dragon City, the same heavyweights have gathered again, and after a brief exchange they go quiet and sit watching the great screen, waiting for that man to appear. Everything he told them has come true, and belief is no longer a choice they get to make. They do not wait long. The screen flickers, and a young man petting a cat comes up on it, and it is me. Elder Joe smiles and says the young friend has finally shown his true face, and asks my name. You on, I tell him. Done hiding now, because the timing is ripe. My strength is enough. The borders have come. There is no leak left to fear, and their trust is already mine. So what would hiding buy me? He calls it a fine name, and says that to have done so much so young marks a limitless future. I tell him I have no taste for official flattery, and to get to the point. He is caught off guard by how blunt I am, but takes no offense and smiles, agreeing that the borders have come and the prophecy is held, that they believe what I said and both sides can work together, and inviting me to name my terms. I take him up on it and name my price, one of their military bases, the one at Sansong City, and the screen splits to show a map with a red ring around the ground I mean. Raising a base wants a broad stretch of land. Through the proper channels that means procedures stacked on procedures. A month at the least, to clear approval even with money smoothing the road. And the moment the digging starts, the industrial offices and the taxmen come knocking. Far too much fuss, and I cannot wait, so I ask for the land outright. A military base is the cleaner choice besides. Easy to remake and quick to stand up. And who on earth would dare walk in to inspect a military base still under construction? Elder Joe's face turns grave, and his look at me deepens, because he had not thought I could learn of the Sanseong City base at all. And in an instant, his estimate of the power behind me climbs another notch. He grants it, the base is mine, and says he will pull the station soldiers out within 2 days and hand it over on the 3rd. I smile and tell him he is a straightforward man, and to ask his questions. They want to know, he says, about the monster in the next spatial rift. I tell him without a beat that it is a vampire laying the creature out, because this whole exchange runs on shared interest and the trust it builds. The room echoes the word, asking whether I mean the bats the foreign churches fear. I confirm they are those very bats, though I cannot promise how strong they run inside the space or whether they match the old legends. Elder Joe asks how strong and with what powers. By the space's own rating of 3-star, I answer, and its abilities are much as the stories say. Super speed, shape-shifting, blood absorption, flight, and the rest of it. The whole room draws a sharp breath at 3-star, because even Director Joe, the military's current first, barely scrapes to 2-star with all the energy pearls he can eat. And a single star of distance is a canyon. Their faces sink. Director Joe asks the natural question that a monster so strong must carry weaknesses, and whether those two run as the legends have them. I tell him they do. For all its 3-star billing, the vampire's real strength lives in its speed, and its raw striking power falls short of theirs. And its weak points are glaring: garlic, crosses, holy water, scripture, silver, ultraviolet light, even plain lightning. Every one of them bites into a vampire for real damage. Better still, this space comes with helpers of its own, so measured against the mechanical space, it is a good deal safer. The tension drains out of the room, Director Joe's shoulders with it, until his own strategist's ear catches the word, and he asks what helpers I mean. I only curl my lips and let the question hang, turning instead to Elder Joe to say I also need ores, copper and iron and tin, and to ask what he thinks. He blinks, then laughs, telling me to list what I want, and that so long as it is not outrageous he will do his best to meet it. I am amused, and tell him he is a plain dealer, that my assistant will send the list. All common metals, nothing to worry over. He waves it off grandly as a small matter and tells me to go on with what I was saying. Since I have taken the benefit, I keep them in suspense no longer. The truth, I tell them, is that the first 3 spaces were only beginner grounds, built for people to find their feet, monsters and nothing more. The daily tasks simple, but from the 4th, meaning this one, the shape of it changes. Local powers that stand against the monsters now appear inside the space, and they can think of them as non-player characters. This time, beyond the vampires, there are human faction non-player characters warring on them. Vampire hunters. Churchmen. 10 minutes on, I cut the call and stretch. All that needed saying is said, and the rest rides on how these old men choose to play it. After an event like the one coming, a fair few new experts should surface. The next day, the official notice lands, describing the border and telling the public how the world has turned, because there is no hiding a wall of light everyone can see with their own eyes. Under the 816 Bureau's lead, city after city stands up its own Evolver Management Bureau and throws the doors open to applicants, some of them dangling real sweeteners, full benefits and housing, room and board free, a starting salary from 10 million won a year. Evolvers answer in droves. Overnight, a family with an Evolver in it drowns in the envy and flattery of every relative and friend, and the standing of Evolvers begins to climb. The old order built on money starts to crack, and a new one built on Evolvers rises to take its place. Little Silver reports that Joe Tay has surfaced, and I tell it I know, to pull its people back and leave the rest to me, and hang up on Pang Ho's line. In the image the cat throws into the air, a car is moving, and the man in it is Joe Tay, the one I lured to Haesong City. In this city, Pang Ho's reach is real enough that he knew Joe Tay had left the airport the moment it happened. But with Little Silver, I have watched the man the whole way and had no need of Pang Ho at all. I watched the car turn in through the gate of a villa, then look up at the sky, black and wind-torn. A fine night to get things done. Inside the villa, Joe Tay comes out of the bedroom with his phone, freshly showered, his pleasure taken. Through the open door, the room behind him is a wreck of whips and chains and candles, and on the bed a woman lies covered in wounds. Nothing of the polished young master from the airport is left on him now, only a chill that rolls off his skin. He crosses to the living room, sits, and sips the water Butler gang hands him. Frowning at a run of calls he never answered, he asks why his father dragged him all the way to Haesong City in such a hurry, only to stop taking his calls the moment he arrived. Butler gang bows and says softly that he could not presume to know the master's mind, but that it must be something weighty, most likely tied to the border. He adds that it was fortunate the master called them home, since a day later the border would have sealed them abroad. Jotae nods, allows that it is true, and says he will reach his father tomorrow. Then he tells the butler to have his room cleaned and to bring 2 of them tomorrow, since one turned out too fragile. Butler Gang smiles and dips his head, saying a pair of clean sisters have just come in and he will send them along. Jotae smiles back and says sisters are not bad at all, that the thought makes him impatient. Then the front door bangs open. Jotae's face ices over and he turns toward the entryway, telling someone to go see what it is. There is no need, I tell them, walking in with Winter Plum at my side, since I have come to find someone. Jotae looks at me, then his gaze slides to Winter Plum and fills with surprise and then greed, because to his eye this woman is absolutely first rate, and just the figure on her promises him a fine time. Winter Plum does not so much as glance at him, since in her eyes there is only her boss. Butler Gang steps up, hostile, demanding who I am and who let me in, asking where the security has gotten to, whether they have all died out there. Since I am already standing here, I tell him, my eyes never leaving Jotae, what does he imagine became of the guards outside? He is a great deal younger than the man I carry in memory. The line drains the blood from Butler Gang's face. His fear surfaces. Then he remembers whose ground he stands on and what his own place is. And he stiffens again, warning me that this is the Joe family villa, that what I am doing is trespass, and asking whether I know the cost. He means to say more, but Jotae cuts him off and tells Old Gang that is enough. There is no anger on Jotae now, only an easy carelessness as he sits with his legs crossed and looks me over. He offers to guess it for me, that someone wants him dead, so the only question is the price on his life, and he will pay triple. He only needs the name. To a son of a great house these little scenes are nothing, and there is nothing money cannot solve. And if there is, then 3 times the money. I ask him, amused, whether he can really cover 30 billion. Seeing him again, I am in no rush to kill him. His face changes, and he asks who paid such a sum for his life, and how badly they must want him gone. I can see him spiraling, since few in the whole Dragon Kingdom hold that kind of money, and fewer still a grudge that deep. He asks whether his second brother sent me. After all his turning it over, the only name he can find is his own half-brother, the one who stands to gain most from his death. Good, very good, he thinks. The boy's wings have hardened, that he would dare hire a killer, truly his own blood. Watching his eyes travel from cold to a clench of the teeth, I put on a face of regret and tell him it seems young Master Joe cannot cover the 30 billion after all. What a pity. He says he can cover 30 billion, but whether I can walk out with it is another matter, and he orders Old Gang to deal with us and keep the woman alive. Every trace of the butler's meekness is gone in a breath. His eyes gone sharp as a hawk's, and he digs in and blurs across the room to stand before me, driving a heart-piercing elbow strike out of his martial art. As he moves, his whole body flushes a pale silver, as if dipped in dye, his muscles swelling by a third. Butler Gang is an evolver. I meet the charged blow by simply raising a hand into its path. A savage light flares in his eyes, that I would dare block his art with a bare palm, that I am begging to die. His elbow lands, and the picture he had painted, my hand breaking, my body flung back, does not arrive, and instead he feels he has struck the flank of a mountain, while I stand there unmoved and do not even trouble to frown. His face falls apart, because he knows his own worth, a physical mutation evolver who turns his body to steel and multiplies his strength with it, and yet with a surprise blow on his side he could not shift me a hair. He cannot fight me. The thought is barely formed and he is already moving to break away, when a hand closes on his throat. Mine. I tell him he is an evolver, and that I want his power, and I cast insight over him. The panel reads him out. His name is Gang Hoemu, his combat rating 1-star middle stage. His plunderable power is a steel body in blue, and a martial arts genius in yellow. The steel body turns his whole frame to steel on command, defense soaring, strength a touch higher with it, and the martial arts genius lets him learn any fighting art at a speed far past ordinary men. Before he can even work out what I meant by power, I lift him off his feet by the neck, and the hand there tightens with a force nothing living should hold, and his steel throat begins to cave under it. He gets out a broken plea for the young master to save him, and then the steel neck crumples like an emptied can. His eyes bulge, the silver washes out of him, and he is a dead thing in my grip. Butler Gang is dead. 2 powers burst loose from him, and I gather them in without ceremony, then open my hand and let the corpse drop as though I had done nothing at all. I step over him and settle onto a sofa, and ask the young master whether we might talk. Winter Plum comes forward and lays her small hands on my shoulders to knead them, seeing to a secretary's duties. My easy tone sets Jotei shaking, every scrap of composure gone. He knew Butler Gang inside and out, a master of the fighting arts who woke a power on top of it, top tier the instant he did, in his steel form untouched by blade or gun or bullet, and able to shrug off a shell or two. And that man was choked out by one hand while wearing his steel. This person's strength is a horror. He stammers an offer. 30 billion, no, 40 billion. If only I spare his life, and curses himself for not bringing more guards. I tell him his family's money burns my hand, and besides, I am not short of it. He pleads to know what I want, that anything he has is mine. I curl my lips and tell him he can start by taking off the wig, since I am not used to seeing him with such a thick head of hair. He asks how I even know that, his face changing, because only a handful know the secret, which means there is an insider on his own team. Still, he peels the wig off, and a faintly balding young man is left sitting there, the edges passable but the crown down to a few brave strands over bare skin, the rim reddened where the wig pressed. With it gone, his whole noble bearing collapses into something almost comic. I grin, because this is the face I knew in my last life. He asks how exactly he can make me let him go, reasoning that since I did not kill him on entering there must be a road left open, or he would already be on the floor beside old Gang. I say nothing and only watch him. Right now, Jotei has not been chosen by the space, has not stepped into it, is nothing but an ordinary man, and facing this version of him, a dullness settles over me, and the playfulness drains out. A desert eagle appears in my hand, and I level it at his head. He begs me not to kill him, to talk, offering 40 billion, no, 50 billion, checks or cash, all of it. The gun goes off, and its head bursts and paints half the sofa red. Jotei is dead. I stand in silence, my face empty, and turn for the door. The cause was sown in the last life, and the fruit falls in this one. Minutes later, the villa catches, and the fire runs out of anyone's control, and it takes hours to put down. But the bad news is already loose through the upper rooms of the city, that the eldest young master of the Joe family is dead. The authorities comb the surrounding cameras and find nothing wrong, and the thing is filed as an accident and closed. 3 more days, and I do not leave the house once, spending all of it teaching the girls to manage their faces, which is to say to pass for people. Through no small effort, the 4 of them come to hold joy and anger and grief and delight and the movement of the eyes, enough to slide into society unnoticed, enough that a stranger would never take them for machines. Winter Plum shifts the most, buried the whole time in the craft of the secretary, every book on the trade read through, even the novels that feature one. Now she can turn sweet or cutting, imperious or coyly soft, with a single thought, and if I did not know for a fact she was a robot, I would be in real danger. Autumn Chrysanthemum drifts over and settles beside me, her whole bearing an invitation, and leans to my ear to murmur that the authorities have been in touch, that the military base is ready and we can take it over whenever we like. There is not a flicker of stiffness left in a single glance or smile of hers, and anyone who saw her would call her a woman who could throw a whole world into chaos. Each of the 4 picked a persona to fit her own face and figure. Spring Orchid took a classical air, delicate and refined, the pure and untouchable first love type. Summer Bamboo went fiery, shorts and a vest and leather boots, an unbeatable young energy pouring off her. Autumn Chrysanthemum, charming to begin with, has spent these 2 days modeling herself on a legendary temptress out of old mythology, and now every motion of her body is a lure. Ringed day after day by the 4 of them rehearsing, my eye for beauty has been dragged up past all reason, and ordinary lovely women no longer register at all. I am glad of it, honestly. Women only slow the draw of my gun. Anyway, back to the point. Autumn Chrysanthemum stands nominally with the 816 Bureau now. My line to the officials, and at her word that the base is ready, I am delighted. And tell Winter Plum to book the tickets, that I want to go to Sanseng City now. Haseong City to Sanseng City is no short hop, better than 3,000 kilometers all told, too far for the road or the rail, so it has to be the air. Only domestic routes fly now, the international lines cut clean by the borders with no date set to reopen. I chose the far city for its ground. Sansong City is nothing but mountains stacked on mountains, and a base tucks away invisible among them. The land is dry with little rain, easy to dig and easy to run out underground. Unlike Haseong City, where pipes riddle the earth and a man might strike a hot spring by accident. The third spatial rift sits close to Sansong City besides, the one that opens onto robots, which can be turned and made to obey, an endless font of new machines. And it lies far from the coast, which keeps it safe. Weighed all together, there was never a reason to choose anywhere else. And once I go this time, I mean to settle there for good. Since nothing here holds me, and where is a man safer than inside his own base? That afternoon I pack light and leave with Winter Plum, the 4 girls, and the 1 cat, flagging down a 7-seat van to the airport. On the way we run more red lights than I care to count, the driver's eyes forever drifting to the 4 in the back, drifting and then blowing straight through the signal. It is autumn chrysanthemum and winter plum who draw the most of it. One all allure and one carrying the air of a grown woman, exactly the sort a road-worn driver cannot keep his eyes off. Out of the van, I leave the machines one line and walk into the terminal alone. Figure out how to get in yourselves, I tell them, since they are robots and security will hardly wave them through. Though autumn chrysanthemum carries papers from on high and can get them passed in time. Only slowly, and I have no patience to stand around waiting. Ticket in hand, I see winter plum is booked first class, the first time in either of my lives I have flown it on a commercial plane, though I have ridden my share of helicopters and fighter jets. Might as well try it. My holdings were cashed clean out to 300 billion won before the borders came down, so a handful of first-class seats is nothing. I go in through the VIP channel and board early, and the seat is a private little sofa, one chair and one table. Honestly worth the price, and I lie back into it. No sooner am I down than a girl in jeans and a white shirt behind me tugs at her friend and whispers that there is a handsome man up front. The one in the long skirt looks, her eyes lighting, and agrees he really is handsome. Want me to get his number for you? The jeans girl teases. The long skirt girl rolls her eyes and tells her not to drag her own infatuation into it, though if she begs nicely she might go fetch it. The jeans girl scoffs that if she wanted the number she would get it herself, then asks whether he is the other's type. A man in glasses beside them catches it, his face darkening and cuts in that sometimes. Sanson, you cannot judge a person on looks. You have to weigh what is inside. And there is an unearned superiority all over the words. Sai Hoeon, the jeans girl, fires back. Mind your own business. She has been a looks-first person since she was small. And where there is no face, what is the point of talking about the inside? And she thinks he is simply jealous. The girl in jeans is Go Sansan, the one in the skirt Ryu Kiki best friends, and the glasses man is Kiki's suitor. Sansan had made plans with Kiki, and Si Hohan sniffed it out and bought his way onto the same flight, and unable to shake him, she let him tag along as a walking meal ticket. The retort sinks his face, though it rights itself in an instant. He asks what he would ever have to be jealous of, then shows off that the side group is his family's business. Its yearly profit past 1 billion won now. This kind of inner substance, he says, runs far past any ordinary pretty face, since handsome men are a copper a dozen in the nightclubs, but a blue-chip stock like himself is rare. He does not much drop his voice on any of it, because he wants me to hear. He had watched me look around like a man in first class for the first time. No brand on my clothes and nothing on my wrist, and guessed I was some junior on a company trip who could never measure up to him. To a mind like his, letting a chance to preen slide by would be an insult to the heavens for handing it to him. I hear all of it, take the measure of the three of them and fit the picture together. But I am not their father and will not indulge bad habits, so I tell him that if he cannot speak properly, he should speak less, and to mind that trouble comes out of the mouth. My gaze slides across Saihoeon like a drawn knife, a plain warning. Out here it is still a world run on law, and a man abides by it. But in the space a poser like this would not last. 3 lines in my hands. Under the look his face pales and a fear he cannot explain rises in him, and then, chasing it, anger. He keeps it behind his teeth because that stare has done its work, and some part of him has decided I am no ordinary man, maybe even a killer. He hesitates. Beside him goes Sansan, watching a single sentence of mine shut him up and already sour on him. Jabs that he should just admit he is jealous and be done. Money can be earned with effort, she says. That one stroke of luck from the space and a person pulls better than 10 million won a year in minutes, while good looks last a lifetime. Stung, Saihoeon loses face and snaps back that if effort paid, the street sweepers would all be rich by now, that it is only the excuse of people who cannot make money. As for being chosen by the space, forget the odds, since even if you are picked, you either get conscripted and trade your freedom for a salary, or you go on scraping by. He lifts his wrist and flashes the watch, the newest Patek Philippe, better than 6 million won, bought whenever the mood takes him, while some people could not save that much in a lifetime. This, he says, is hard power, and the happiness of money is beyond my imagining. It is all preening, but this time he does not point at me by name. He is a rich heir and not a stupid one, and that stare of mine is not to be trifled with. Yet he cannot lose face before the goddess, so he reasons that not naming me leaves him an out if I take it badly. Then he fixes on me, and seeing me start to turn his way, he strikes first with a smile, saying he is sorry, that he did not mean to aim at me, no offense. Getting in the first word to hold the high ground, the difference between a smart heir and a stupid one. Pleased with himself, he goes on, that in any case it is plain fact, money matters more than looks, and if I do not believe it we can put it to a simple test. Watching the boy's amateur strut brings back a youth of my own long since past, and the killing intent in me thins. I ask, playful, how we test it. Chin up and full of confidence he lays it out, that we each go ask a beautiful woman for her number and see which of us she favors. I curl my lips and agree, just to pass the time. His voice had not been quiet, and it has pulled some attention in the hushed first-class cabin. Other passengers showing that timeless human weakness for a good scene. The bigger the better. Sizing the two of us up and murmuring. A middle-aged woman leans to her husband to ask who he thinks wins, and the man, early 40s with a scalp thinning ahead of its time, allows it is hard to say, that it turns on whether the girl chases money. She calls that the same as saying nothing, rolling her eyes, but presses him to choose one anyway. The rich one, he supposes. She asks why. He says the rich one has better odds, that you cannot eat good looks but money you can, and then he stops dead halfway and simply stares toward the cabin door. She asks why he has stopped, and then she sees the reason herself. A blonde woman comes into first class, a blue knit top and tight jeans on her, the long clean lines of her legs, and the proud swell of her chest on full display. Her makeup so fine she looks stepped straight out of a painting. Even the middle-aged woman, a woman herself, cannot help a second look, to say nothing of the men, and a breath later she is unhappy about it and pinches her husband hard at the waist. His yelp snaps the whole cabin back to itself. Sai Hoyan sees the blonde and his eyes light, because next to her his goddess Kiki has gone plain, and those legs alone would be a lifetime's amusement. His eyes roll and he asks whether I dare take her. I give him an odd look and ask whether he is sure. Of course he is, he says. What? Am I scared? I laugh and tell him to go first, that I only fear once I move he will have no chance at all. The woman is none other than Winter Plum. If I stepped in, there would truly be nothing left for him. He tosses back a hope that I will not cry after, straightens his clothes, stands and walks to her. Arriving beside her, he asks whether he may add the beautiful lady as a friend, and flashes the Patek Philippe. He points at me and explains that she should not misunderstand, that he is no idle flirt, only that he made a bet with that man for her number. If he wins, the man owes him 100,000 won, he says, and he will wire her 20,000 of it. Half of it is true and half a lie, and to pry the number out of a woman this fine he has stooped to bribery, and the whole cabin quietly marvels that the kid has some skill and has plainly done this before. The blonde looks over at me. I only smile, take out my phone, wave it, and tell the beauty to leave me her number. She tilts her head, dazed and cute with it, and Sai Ho-hyeon's heart hammers, because he must have her. Then the blonde speaks, telling him to move aside, the voice ice, though to his ears it is music from heaven. He says okay on reflex, then catches himself and asks what she just said. She pushes him out of the way, walks to me, lifts my phone, and taps something into it. Wounded, he demands how this is possible. Why me? On what grounds? She reports that it is entered, hands the phone back, and takes the seat beside me. The blonde is Winter Plum, come a step ahead of the rest. At the greeting she let fall, his outrage freezes on his face and roots him where he stands. Since she called that pretty boy her boss, he manages to ask whether we know each other. I take the phone, wave it at him, and tell him he has lost. He swears and demands whether I am playing him, since she called me boss. Stupid as he is, he knows now he has been had, and knows too what that look on my face was. The look a man gives a fool, and that he was the fool. I remind him that this is the one he chose, that I even confirmed it. He cries that I cheated, that it does not count, that he will pick another, going shameless because what I did was too foul to sit with. He casts around for a fresh target, and then his gaze locks straight ahead, where a woman in a fitted silk dress comes swaying into the cabin, a charming face and a waist that moves like a slow poison. He breathes that this is the one he wants, lit up all over again, certain his heart has bloomed a second time. What was the blonde? Next to a body like this, a cold-grown beauty is worth nothing. Before I can answer, Sai Ho-hyeon flashes what he takes for a charming smile. As the woman nears, his palms go damp with excitement, and his heart pounds, and that second bloom rushes up in him stronger than any before. She reaches him, and before he can get a word out, she takes the lead herself, all sweetness, asking the handsome man whether he would mind moving aside, and even her voice carries a lure that runs a thrill through every man who hears it. A seductress. He is only more captivated. He starts to move, then jolts, and asks, nervous, whether the beauty might give him her contact, since he has a bet on with that young man. The same excuse, the same routine, only the money bumped from 20,000 to 50,000 won, split down the middle, and given how grown this one is, he is sure she will not refuse. Are you trying to hit on me? She says, an eyebrow up, looking him slowly over. His face reddens, since he has never met one this bold, but he brazens it out and says that is right. Would she do him the honor, unlocking his phone and holding it out? She giggles that he is not her type, that she likes that one, and points at me. His face stiffens, because he has not even begun and it is already over. Sullen, he grumbles that you cannot weigh a man by appearance, that some people's whole outfit would not add up to 1,001, not a scrap of one of his own jackets. She only repeats that she likes that type and tells him to move aside now, extending a jade hand to push him gently off, exactly the scene from before with Winter Plum, and he has no power in him to resist it. She sways to my side, then leans and lets herself fall into my arms, winding them around my neck, sighing that she seems to have turned her ankle. His eyes go red at the sight of her thrown across me, and he wants to shout at me to let go of the woman and let him have his turn, but he thinks better of saying it aloud. Then he sees a thing more shocking still, as I roll my eyes and swat her across the backside. I ask what she is carrying on for and tell her to tone it down and go sit over there. In that moment, he wants nothing more than to be that hand, even for a second or two, since it surely felt fine. But then he shakes it off, throttles the stray thought, and rises stoutly to defend her honor, demanding what kind of attitude that is and where exactly I thought I was putting my hand. His words stir the men in first-class riding without women of their own, who mutter that the fellow looks respectable but has wandering hands and is about to be slapped. Even Go Sanson and her friend, watching cold from the side, frown, their whole impression of me dropping hard. But the woman does not fly into the anger they all expect. She pouts her lush lips and complains, sweet and put out, that I am hateful, that the boss is no fun at all, then stands, walks to the seat by Winter Plum, and sits. This one is none other than Autumn Chrysanthemum, and the word she let fall stirs a storm. The cabin buzzes that this one called him boss too, that there are two of them now and no telling the young man's background. Oldly admits he misread him. Someone scoffs that a simple man does not keep two employees like these, and another sighs that the show-off boy is genuinely pitiful. Sai Ho Heian stands stunned, because if he did not mishear, she called him boss and so did the last one, and he feels like a fool suffering a public death right in his seat. Once Autumn Chrysanthemum has gone to her seat, I turn to Sai Hoyan, flat as still water, and ask what he said just now, that I did not catch it clearly. He opens his mouth and finds no answer, and I go on before he can. That never mind, I will not ask. He cannot handle a top-tier woman like these, I tell him, and should give it up and take the good advice. And he is lost again besides, so does he care to keep betting, since two more are coming over there. His face twitches and he turns on reflex to look, and his eyes blow wide. There are indeed two more first-rate beauties, each a different flavor from the pair before. One soft and lovely, the other all heat and youth. The young one in leather boots and short shorts blazes with such freshness that he feels himself falling in love again and again and again. Then something snags in his mind and he swings back to me, wary, and asks whether these two know me as well. He no longer dares look down on me, because the first two called me boss. Though he cannot guess how large my business runs, I am plainly a man of money, or I could never keep two women like that in hand, goddesses among goddesses being nothing an ordinary man could manage. Watching his careful new face, I grin, and congratulate him on finally learning to speak up on cue. He turns to stone, then bursts into tears, feeling the whole world set against him, wailing inside why it should be like this. Oh heaven, oh earth, is a fine face truly worth so much? This is far too cruel to a second-generation heir. Just then a jade hand pushes him aside again, its owner asking him to excuse her and move. He is in the way. The two women pass him and come up to me, and one of them complains that the boss did not even think to wait for them. And the two are Summer Bamboo and Spring Orchid. Summer Bamboo, the one who spoke. Spring Orchid only greeting me. My head already aching, I ask Summer Bamboo why so much chatter and tell her to go sit in their own seats. When these girls have not learned to manage their faces, they are stiff enough that one glance tells you something is off. And once they have learned it, they each build a persona and use me for a test dummy. And either way, my head aches. Summer Bamboo mutters that she is going, asking why I am so fierce with her, and hauls Spring Orchid off to two open seats to sit. And so all four women are in place. Oh, and Little Silver. It bought no ticket, and the airport does not sell seats to cats, so it was shut in a cage and thrown into the plane's cargo hold. Once all four women call me boss, even the slowest passenger in first class understands I am not a man to trifle with. Sai Ho Heian's face works through several expressions before he gives up and slumps back. Then he lifts a thumb at me and calls across the aisle that I sandbagged the whole cabin, that I played the fool and swallowed the tiger whole, and he admits he is beaten. After that he sits staring at nothing, questioning the whole shape of his life, and he no longer has the heart to chase the goddess Ryukiki beside him. Everything falls apart under comparison. Ryukiki was pretty enough, the sweet girl next door sort, but next to four beauties of four different flavors, she suddenly reads as ordinary, and I watch him arrive at that cruel arithmetic in real time. He touches his own face without meaning to, wondering, I would guess, whether a knife and a good surgeon could remake him into a man women line up beside. The announcement tells everyone to buckle in for takeoff, and the cabin settles. The engines climb and we lift, and the men keep stealing glances at the four women, because if a thing cannot be had, it can at least be looked at. Go Sanson and her friend had meant to ask me for a way to reach me later, but with four goddesses fanned around me, neither dares come near now. Half an hour in, The four beside me all turn their heads toward the rear at once. Winterplum leans to my ear and reports that something has happened in economy, that people are firing off distress calls and texts, that the economy cabin has been hijacked. My eye twitches. I am simply trying to take a flight, and the world hands me a hijacking, the most tired setup in every movie ever shot. I ask her the count and whether there is a bomb, and I tell her to move in and keep it contained. If the plane comes apart in the air, it will not kill me, but it will cost me time and a change of transport, and time I will not waste. She tells me there are 4, all armed, one holding a bomb, and one an esper. An esper. That single word lifts my eyebrow, and I stand. I tell Autumn Chrysanthemum to come and the rest to hold here, since she carries official credentials and that will smooth the road later. We pass into business class and find no reaction there at all, which tells me the trouble is fresh and has not spread this far forward yet. I also notice not one flight attendant on the aisle, which means every last one has gone aft to the emergency. I walk Autumn Chrysanthemum through business class and lose count of the eyes we drag along. The men fix on her as if their gazes are glued to her skin, and the women fix on me since a young man built as I am is a rare thing. Yet not one steps up to speak, because a passenger who boarded from first class is not to be trifled with, so they only feast their eyes. A knot of attendants stops us at the middle transition zone, telling me there is a small incident ahead, and it is not convenient to pass. Their brows knotted with worry even as their training holds them steady. I have no patience to explain. I signal Autumn Chrysanthemum with a look and ask them straight what the hijackers are doing. Their faces go bloodless, because how could this man know about economy already? And are we perhaps working with them? Before the panic spills over, Autumn Chrysanthemum produces an identification, opens it and holds it up, telling them this is official business, and to cooperate fully. Her voice sheds its honey for a note of authority. They stare, then flood with relief because stamped across it are the words, 816 Bureau, a department they all know. They stop doubting and lay it out. 4 hijackers, 2 men and 2 women, one holding a bomb, one of the men gifted, seemingly able to knock people out from a distance. It matches what Winterplum told me near enough. I tell them to fall back and calm the business cabin, and that I will see to economy. They trade glances and nod, glad to leave the ugly professional work to the professionals. Then I lean to Autumn Chrysanthemum and tell her to jam the bomb's remote signal the moment we move, so the thing cannot be triggered, and leave the rest to me. She answers that she has it, and we keep walking. I spot the 4 the instant I step into economy, because everyone is carrying firearms and a gun is not a subtle thing. Golden light swirls in my eyes as my eye of insight settles on the 2 men. The first reads as CO Daewei, combat rating 1-star early stage, a single plunderable trait on him, air control in blue. The second reads as CO Iwi, no rating and nothing worth taking. Brothers then, which is why they look alike, and the younger has stripped off his jacket to show a back sheeted in explosives. Real or fake, I cannot tell. Our arrival draws the 4, because every other passenger sits frozen and obedient with fear. And here come 2 people strolling in as if the guns are furniture. The elder brother barks at us to squat and put our hands on our heads, or he will put us in the ground. Then his eyes and his brother's slide off me and lock onto Autumn Chrysanthemum with open greed, since neither has ever seen a woman built at her tier. I glance at the 2 female hijackers and read them both as ordinary, which settles my nerves. I ignore the muzzles and walk forward. The younger brother starts to warn me to stop, and then his throat seizes as if a hand is closed on it, terror flooding his eyes. Because as I advance, the nearest female hijacker simply ceases to exist. She vanishes into empty air with nothing left behind, as though erased from the world. What none of them can know is that a figure has just appeared outside the fuselage with no floor beneath her, and she drops from 10,000 meters as a small unscheduled gift to whatever waits below. Inside the cabin, the younger brother rubs his eyes before he can believe one of his own is gone. The passengers stare at one another, equally lost, though under the fear they are quietly overjoyed. They arrive at the obvious guess, that the woman's disappearance has everything to do with the man and woman who just walked in. Their speculation does not slow my feet, and with my next step a second hijacker blinks out of the world. A gang of 4 would have made the evening news as a crowd storming the plane. Now after a few strides, half of them have been forced into nothing, and I can watch the younger brother do the math and hate it. He is not slow. 2 people melting into thin air does not happen without a hand behind it. He shouts at his elder brother that this one is gifted, to freeze me quick, and he backpedals hard to his brother's shoulder. The elder brother has caught up to the danger and drags him behind, telling him to watch the passengers and keep them from turning. Then he thrusts a hand toward me with a black look and demands who gave me the nerve to swagger in front of him. My feet stall. The air around me thickens all at once into something like syrup, and every movement drags. I cannot even pull a breath, cannot draw oxygen into my body at all, as if the whole space has frozen shut. This air control is genuinely interesting. The younger brother, still holding a gun on the crowd, grins cruelly and asks whether it is hard to move now, and promises I will die in despair. His brother snorts, and a strange ripple of energy rolls off him, and a moment later, a cord of air wraps my neck and begins to cinch tight, very like a local application of compression. This ability is not bad at all, and it is being played with real cleverness. I do not break loose. I want to see what other tricks this one is hiding, because it is the first gift this interesting I have met. Come to think of it, I never heard a whisper of it in my last life, which likely means the pair were arrested or killed off after this very hijacking. The strong are never content to stay small. They either rob banks or seize airports. The elder brother seems already to have signed my death warrant in his head, a flick of killing intent crossing his eyes as he pours out mental power and the air throttling me contracts again. 2 seconds pass and my face has not flickered, and he frowns because the picture in his mind refuses to happen. His cheek jumps and he floods the ability with everything he has, mental power leaking off him like water, and still I wear the same calm. I tell him the neck massage ends here, that if this is the whole of it, he can go. I step forward and shrug out of his restraint as easily as shrugging off a coat. His pupils shrink to points, disbelief all over him, and he asks how I could break free. Then something wrong prickles behind him, and he turns to find the younger brother vanished, and with him the bomb strapped to his back. Madness floods his eyes, the whites going blood red, a savage light kindling. The restraint clamps around me again, and this time the oxygen is drawn off and swapped out wholesale for hydrogen. He does not stop there. His other hand comes up and drives a heavy punch at me from across the cabin. I narrow my eyes, because in my perception the air undergoes a very particular change under that fist, compressing and compressing until it becomes a shell that fires straight at me. An air cannon then. In an instant the working principle lays itself out in my mind. I am wrapped in hydrogen now, and when the cannon lands, the friction between the packed particles will light the hydrogen and the whole of me will go up. This move can turn the space around any target into a powder keg. Who needs bombs and missiles with a gift like that? Judging by how hard he is panting, it costs him dearly, but even so, this trait is good. This trait I like. And a man who bends the air like this can very likely fly, since at 10,000 meters he would not throw a fireball. That settles it. I like it very much. Enough, a thought, and the air cannon blinks out and reappears hanging in front of his own chest. Before he can register it, it drives into him. He screams and is flung back, a fist-sized crater opening in his chest where I can just make out the beat of his heart. Before he can do anything about that, an ice needle punches into his brain and his aura snuffs out. He hits the deck and frost climbs him inch by inch until he is a sculpture of ice. I step up at my leisure and gather his trait, then turn for first class, telling Autumn Chrysanthemum to handle the rest. She answers that she has it, turns to the terrified crowd, flips out her identification, and tells them the 816 Bureau is on official business, and no one need panic. 5 minutes later, she returns and reports it is all handled. I am busy by then learning the air. A wisp of it, invisible to any ordinary eye, spins and leaps and hardens in my hands as I get the feel of air control. This one is practical. The rest of the flight passes without incident, and the plane lands clean, a fleet of law enforcement vehicles already waiting. What follows is routine, and none of it touches us, thanks again to Autumn Chrysanthemum's identification. They only confirm the credentials are real and wave us through. This is the quiet benefit of an official face. We flag down a car and drive straight for the military base, and this time the driver runs no red lights at all, for the simple reason that she is a middle-aged woman.